and flat tires. It was during the time that it was hard to get tires, during the war.
I remember.
We had a flat, he had all these little kids in the car.
No tires. Tires are.
So what did you do? What did somebody do with it?
Fix the tires.
Finally,
Excuse me,
got
I'm
it.
supposed to ask you, do you want more
Mix
beer?
it
There's
up
some
and
in
then
the
back on the
refrigerator.
Oh, okay.
Would you like more
I still got
beer?
a little left. Maybe I'll have a little bit more, sure.
All right. Do you want me to
I'll
help
come
you?
in and get it.
All right, okay, make yourself right at home.
Thank you.
I thought you would do that. Okay.
I'm going to wait. I'll wait.
Wait to hear the
Oh,
story.
Yeah, I'll wait.
He wants to hear
Thank
the
you.
story.
Yeah. Oh, that you had to stop and fix the tires.
Yeah.
Oh, there. You mean in Michigan?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But you rode on the rim till you got to.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I remember this trip, though. I asked about. I said, "Didn't you drive us once to Calumet?" And Jean was up in the back. You don't, I don't know if you remember this. Up in the back, under the window,
On the ledge, there was a little ledge.
Yeah,
And there were three of
you
them.
remember that? Three of us, my
in the
friend,
seat.
Mother, and
That's
Joe,
it,
and I,
yeah.
and Jean up in the back on the.
You mean Betty and you and
Mhm.
and he said he'd never forget it.
So that's why you remember those washboard roads, too. Especially
Yeah,
if
that's one
you're
of
up
the
in the...
reasons. I remember in the dark. I remember it being very dark.
Yeah.
What year do you think that was?
About how long did it take to make that drive?
I don't know.
It seemed to me forever.
It did
Must
take a
have
long
been back
time.
in about 32 or 33.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, I told Jean and Robin when we came, and I remembered when we used to come, we used to stop at Ironwood, and there were Lieberman cousins there. And they lived upstairs of the store, and I can remember carrying everything upstairs to stay overnight because it was a 2-day trip to come. But then I also remember driving with my mother, who driving like a bat out of hell, to tell you the truth. She would go like crazy down the road, those roads. And I can remember sitting there next to her looking at this, watching the speedometer. Around 100. She would go flying.
Joe, around 100.
Huh?
She was going
And
around 100.
that was though,
Sister.
oh yeah,
No.
oh no,
Yes.
in the Packard.
Yeah, in Michigan. She can remember
used to
those
go.
times when she used to ride.
I didn't think you could go that far.
Oh
That
yes,
fast
you
now.
could. Those cars didn't have,
Oh, geez.
those cars used to go
Such a
faster than they
time
will
limit.
now because there were no speed
See?
limits. They
I
didn't
got
have
something to do.
65 miles an hour. It was just go if you can, right?
We went up for Thanksgiving dinner once, and there was a blinding snowstorm. I don't know how Izzy ever drove up there because the windshield wipers were going, but it didn't make a particle of difference because it was just white. It was going right in, like a blanket was there in front of us. But we made it. Of course, we were so much younger then too. It didn't bother another one.
That's right.
But today, I'm so paranoid about
I know. As a matter of fact, Izzy, do you remember? I have to stop you. You can't stop. No, I'm sorry. Well, I wanted to ask Izzy about the time that we drove on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day up to Hibbing, Hibbing, I think it was. Izzy had friends. They had just finished a house. Johnny?
Oh, well, the Pedic's in Ely, Minnesota.
Ely. That's right. The Johnny Pedic, that's right, in Ely. And we drove up on New Year's Day. And we drove through a terrible snowstorm. Terrible. And they had just been, I could still smell the new wood in that house, you know. It was, I remember that so distinctly.
Well, Johnny was just married then.
That's right.
He married his child. They were married before we were.
That's right.
Johnny
You were
and
married.
They're divorced now.
Is that right?
Yeah, he remarried another childhood sweetheart.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Well, I remember that house, and I remember we woke up the next morning, and everything was crystal clear, and the air was so clear, the thing would break. You know, it was so, and there were snow dogs, and everything was sparkling and bright, and oh boy, was it cold.
Robin, they were our Slovenian friends, and they were crazy about Izzy. And when he and I became engaged, they said they were going to have an engagement party for us. And they had it downstairs in their tavern.
Ah,
They lived upstairs and they had this tavern downstairs. And Johnny's brothers and sisters were there. He had one sister, Molly, that was very much in love with Izzy. Do you remember Molly Pedic? She was just crazy about Izzy. And the family had hoped, it was one of those things. But they still went ahead and they had this great big engagement party for us, and that's where I learned how to say Givio. They made their own wine and beer, and Givio is like we say L'chaim, or Salud or Kampai or whatever. And Mrs. Pedic said you must get married on a Thursday night, not Friday, Thursday, because that will be a good luck for you always, for years to come. So we decided to get married New Year's Eve and discovered it was on a Friday, which we couldn't get married on Friday night. We got like the candles and the whole shtick. So we were married on a Thursday, December 30th, and for 51 years we've confused everybody. So we start getting, cards around the 29th, 30th, and the 31st. But they
Sounds like it was
they
good
have
luck.
remained
Sure,
remained
sure.
our friends all through the years. And as they died out, and it was just Johnny left now, and I don't think he's too well. He lives
Really?
in Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, really?
He's
Oh,
done,
really?
he's done very well.
Is
Oh,
that
okay,
right?
thank you.
Yeah.
We get caught in a story,
Yeah,
Here,
so that,
and you can bring
Bee was telling a story about the time that you took her up to Ely.
To Ely, to Johnny Pedic,
Oh, yeah.
in the snow. We were talking about riding in places in the snow, and we rode through a terrible storm that
Remembers
night.
you too, he was here a couple years ago.
Is that right?
We still
Oh, I remember.
maintain.
Yeah.
He came to the
Married to a
anniversary.
lovely,
Came, yeah,
lovely
that's
woman.
right.
Yeah, they came. Do you remember them?
there were so many people, Lil.
Yeah.
It was just really, it was hard.
It was really nice seeing him. Been many years.
Yeah, he's a wonderful, wonderful friend, and he loves Izzy. Well, he got him started in the coin machine business. But I think one of the funniest things was when Sam Glass got started in the vending machine business. And you had to know this, your grandfather, whom you never had the pleasure of knowing. He was such a gentleman and a real quality person. And I love the way he presided at a dining room table and the way he carved and all that. This is where Izzy learned how to carve a turkey. I mean, the first time he carved a turkey, I almost quit because he never ate home. Izzy never ate at your house, did he?
Oh,
His brother Izzy.
in our house, we always carved that way.
Oh, sure.
Lil was complaining, she says that the first time Izzy carved, she said she almost died, it was so bad.
Sure.
No,
She says he never ate at home.
No, it was beautiful. He learned from your father.
Yeah, Daddy was good. We were telling Robert that on the way in.
That's her.
Oh,
Yeah.
and
He'd love to do it.
yeah,
Robert,
and Izzy always,
get to our
Izzy would
break.
he'd always pick up, the plates to see, what they were, so on and so forth. And to this day, he carves beautifully. He really does. But Sam was such a gentleman. He was just a wonderful, wonderful human being. And they used to come and stay at our house, and once he came with his Danish friend, Hansen.
Yeah, Ed Hansen.
Ed Hansen and Flo, and Flo. And in our home, we lived on Arrowhead Road. We built that house.
We saw
We
it.
went by the house.
Oh, did you?
Yes, we
The same
did.
lilac hedge and everything. And we had a pie-shaped table in the kitchen. So Ed and Sam would sit in the kitchen, and I was preparing meals, because in those days we didn't eat out, we always ate in. And I had my back to them, but they always included me, in the conversation. And one day, it was a small kitchen, and I just didn't believe in having a lot of kitchen utensils. And I was not aware that anyone else had noticed it, but Sam had observed the fact that I had prepared all these meals, and he said, I can't get over you. He said, you use one pan, and you rinse it out, and you go on with something else, and he could observe things that Izzy to this day is not aware of. And you're so, excuse me, I'm drooling. He said, you're so neat, because, I did through something like, remember that corner kitchen?
Yeah, I do.
Anyway, he was dear. And then another time I recall, we had bought all our furniture in Chicago through Sam. And we bought a sofa bed, and we put it in the den. We didn't have children at the time. I think I was pregnant with Sheila, whatever. So your grandparents came to visit, and we naturally put them up in the den. And I hear Grandma, your mother, in the middle of the night, "You had to choose this sofa bed. It is so uncomfortable." It is so, and it was the most uncomfortable thing. Those were the fun times.
Well, wasn't there something though about the bed when you went shopping for the furniture? And you used to say that the bed went,
No,
what was that?
your father curled himself up on a sofa, a living room sofa, and it was everything that I hated. It was a French provincial or something, and it started, with a heavy frame. It started here, kind of low, and it went up like this. And it was a rose brocatelle, and this was in the showroom. And he curled, remember when Sam Glass, he curled up in that thing, he said, "I love it, Lily, please buy it. Buy it for me. Buy it for me." I hated it. I hated it with a passion. Because it was so unlike me, all of this is ungepatzkid, if you know what that means. It's an adjective for too much. Anyway, it's a Yiddish adjective. So anyway, but we bought this thing. It must have cost us wholesale maybe $100 or something like that. Rose brocatelle.
The finest.
And with a
the
down,
Asian-ass price.
down,
the best.
cushion down.
You did buy it?
We bought it because he loved it.
Did you give it to him?
No, he came and he.
We lived with it for
God.
Yeah.
many years.
But I can just see that little
Many
figure
years.
just
Fine.
curled up and, "Lily, buy it for me, buy it for me." So we bought it for him. But that, we had some wonderful, he was really something. He was so special.
We had, these glasses came at the same time.
Is that?
Astoria glass,
Yeah.
we bought all our glass for at the time.
Really?
We bought,
This is a great
And the last thing we bought was carpeting. Bought everything else, then we went
in
to
4 days.
a cookie party and
In-
met the son
see,
of
when-
the
when-
biggest carpet jobber in the world.
Yeah, but
Rose,
tell
Strauss Rose.
them how that came about. I think that the story is funny.
You tell them.
We, through Sam, we got into the merchandise mart and also the furniture mart. And we just bought everything.
They had a big store in
Dishes, English, Ducal or whatever it was,
That's right.
but everything, in 4 days, I was very old then, I was 21 years old at the time. Bought the whole,
See, they could get anything because there wasn't another store in the area.
yeah, so we
Finest
charged all that.
furniture, all
But we
lines
had
were-
no carpeting. That's the only thing we couldn't get wholesale, carpeting. We couldn't get, God forbid, we should go
At the
to
time.
retail. So anyway, a friend of mine, Bernice Levine from Superior, Wisconsin, was working in Chicago. She was, I forget what she was doing anyway, it was something in business. And she invited us for dinner. And this was the night before we were scheduled to leave, and we were coming back to do it by train. And she said, "Lil, I'm going to have a very interesting gentleman here. And he's a little different." I says, "How different is he?" She says, "He's a communist." He said, "Come." I said, "Oh, I love it. I think that's wonderful." I applaud it to her. I'm delighted. So this card-carrying communist comes in, and she also had Louis Passon, who had just studied hypnotism, and he wanted to hypnotize somebody. But I wouldn't let him hypnotize me. But I said, Izzy would be a volunteer. It was a fun evening.
You had a great
But
case
this
with me.
young man said his name was Rose, Strauss,
He was
or
the
whatever.
son of
But he didn't
one
tell
of the
us.
biggest,
Izzy loves to give the punchline before. But anyway, he didn't tell us what his background was. All we knew was that here's a communist, and he's I saw the soapbox, he's ranting and raving, and I kind of agreed with everything he said. So anyway, what are you doing here in Chicago? And we told him, and I said, the only thing, that we haven't found is carpeting. He said, I'll tell you, I may be giving my father a heart attack, but I'll show up at our factory showrooms in the merchandise mart. I said, you mean to tell me
Strauss
that your
Rose, the
father
biggest
owns
carpet
the Strauss Rose Carpet
dealers in
Company?
the country.
Sure, he said. And
That's great.
and I'll be there.
Everything.
This is the night before we're leaving.
Exactly.
He says, I'll get all dressed up. So anyhow, we were there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and this kid is there. His father, he said, was doing okay under the circumstances. Didn't expect his son ever to show. And we bought our carpeting for 'em.
That's a
Oh,
great story.
God.
That's
We had the
funny.
blueprints.
Isn't that a fun story?
We still have
They sent
a
everything
piece of the
to 'em.
basement from the original furniture, really cut in half. You couldn't buy the dining room set from Saginaw furniture without taking the commode, without taking everything. It was,
No,
it was
there was a
those
buffet,
outside.
there was a buffet that
Buffet.
came with the dining room,
the whole thing was, I think, less than
the
$200.
table and the 6 chairs,
That's
and there was
the
a,
finest furniture you can buy.
and a buffet that came with
Yeah.
it for $240 or something like that.
Oh, Lil.
Yeah, it
Well,
was
that's a long
absolutely,
time ago.
it was gorgeous, it was
That's a
gorgeous.
long time ago.
House.
Oh.
Anyway, but
No
but
price
we
is that.
had, we didn't have room for the buffet, because we had a window in the dining room, a narrow window in the dining room, I didn't want to put the piece of furniture in front of it, and we had a door leading into the dining room from the outside, so there was no place for it. So for a while, and then what we did buy was a server, which you're looking at right there, against the wall in the dining room. That server is still from the original piece.
Yeah, the one on the wall. We-
So it was satinwood mahogany is what it was, satinwood mahogany. And so we had this thing upstairs in a bedroom, which would be occupied by a baby someday. And one day I got a brilliant idea, and I called Hanky, remember Hanky, the upholsterer or whatever he was? And I asked him to come out, and I said, I'd like to have you just saw this. And I lined
Center
up,
out.
yeah, and I was gonna make a table, put legs on it in the middle with a drawer, have that for a table. And then I would have these 2 commodes, and I would use them in the living room for side tables on either side of this sofa that I didn't want. So he charged me, something like $11 to do the work? This is the truth. Anyway, your grandmother, blessed memory, she found out what I was doing, and she just bawled me out to a fairly.
Take a beautiful
How
piece
can
of
you
furniture
take
and
a
cut it.
gorgeous new piece of furniture and cut it up like? I said, never mind, no one could tell me anything then. Oh boy, I was the big boss, very assertive then, before the word became popular. Now I know a little bit. But we had that done, and we used that. And time marches on, and we decide to settle, in Florida, and we're going to move here. So I run an ad in the paper to sell my dining room suite set. I get a phone call, and I recognize the voice, but I'm not sure. She recognizes my voice, but she's not sure. And she said, do you mind telling me who I'm talking to? I said, well, this is Lillian Alfred. And she said, well, this is Rhoda Gazard.
She
said to Rhoda, you're Rhoda, your friend Rhoda.
Roll Levine.
Yeah. Is she still?
Remember?
Yeah.
She says, I'll buy it. I said, Rhoda, you haven't seen it since you were a little girl. You used to come over here and play with me and read poetry and whatever your kids did when you were teenagers.
That's better than the things that Robin heard that she did up in Calumet.
So anyway, they were very close friends, and this was her friend that called me, and she said, if it's yours, I'm buying it. I said, oh no, you come out and take a look at it, sit in the chair and see how you like it. Well, she bought it.
Is there? Are they still here? Is she still here?
She's here, but I think she sold her home. I'd kind of like to know where that dining room is. But I haven't seen Rhoda for a long time, but they live here.
I wonder.
She's well.
When she's not.
What's your last name?
Dizard.
She was Levine.
Yeah, was it
Levine.
Dizard or George Gazard or Dizard?
I never really.
He was a communist too.
I remember her father was very upset.
Rhoda Levine.
Her family.
Well, I
Rhoda
want to tell
Levine.
you the best thing
Rhoda
that ever
Levine
happened to
was a
that
friend of
family.
Bee's when she was
Wonderful
here
little
years
family.
ago.
You think they were from?
I don't know. Not Jewish, and so her
She's not
father.
Earl.
Do you know what it means to sit shiva?
Yeah.
Do you know what that means? Her father sat on wooden boxes when this happened. And that poor Rhoda, she lived in a house out in the
Such a
woods.
sweet.
They had an outhouse. They didn't even have a bathroom in the house. And the father was well-to-do at that time, But in time, he grew to love George like a son.
He did.
It was the
He
best-
relented.
Oh, it was the best thing that ever happened to them. Wonderful, wonderful person.
Well, I'll tell you, what we wanted to hear was some Alfred stories. You've been hearing about glasses.
Well, then the boys can tell you.
Yeah, yeah. because we got all,
Well, Joe gave us
Yeah.
quite a bit.
They had
but we
another
didn't have it
brother.
on
Did he
tape.
tell you about
That's
their
right, we
brother?
didn't have it on tape.
They had a brother who was a prize fighter. Did he tell you?
Oh
that?
yeah, I did hear it a little bit,
Yeah.
but
I never knew him. I never saw him.
Yeah, we knew about
Yeah.
Morris.
Well, he passed away very young, you know, but the boys remember him.
He was 30 something.
32.
32.
Now did I get, he was 35.
Hmm.
He passed away in 32.
He passed away in
in
32.
37,
Right, and he was 35.
5 years old.
I found that again the other day.
Did you?
So,
Yeah, Beth is wonderful about that. I'll tell you, she
Oh,
keeps
Beth
records.
gave me, I wrote everything down.
well,
Yeah,
all the
she's
dates
just
and everything.
the
marvelous.
thing is, I've really got a girl or two that are very, very family. They want to know.
Oh, I know.
See, so it's hard to know what they
Is
all
that Nancy, Sandy, and
Sandy especially.
Yeah, and Nancy.
And
She's a
I'm
wonderful
really
family.
seriously thinking,
Wonderful, wonderful.
you know what, maybe we should send to that thing in Oregon,
In Utah.
In Utah.
Utah.
What's that?
To
I
see.
have another thing, Beth, that I gave Robin a copy of it, but they ran a thing in the New York Times about,
I'm bumming around here, so I thought I'd go to the copper country.
I knew I could always get a meal there. See?
yeah,
Well, seriously. So I went up there and helped your father, whatever I could do. We're going to open the style shop. I probably helped him more by standing behind him in a poker game at the Elks Club than opening the style shop. But he was, kind enough to let me go wherever he went.
Now, wait, let me ask you a question first, to put this in time. Joe is 11 years older, almost 12 years older than I am, right?
I'm exactly 12 years old.
You're 12 years older, you're 11.
I was 12 years old when you were born.
Okay, and Joe was 10
I came
or
out to
11?
Aurora for $11.
Yeah.
I took a trip.
Is that what it was,
An
$11?
overnight voyage to attend her,
Is that right?
welcoming her into this world.
Excuse me, I hate to come in with this, but don't forget about the fish.
In the middle of such a very important
But is he, you said
conversation,
something about 15?
she comes in with a fish.
Is he, you said
Fish will
something about-
not spoil.
No, just a moment, how many minutes?
Oh, I can't. I'm
You
not
said
operating on a
15.
computer. Punch it in. What it
Is
is.
it? Listen,
Another-
you've been known to
Maybe
burn
10,
things.
12.
You've got 10 minutes to go.
I think so. Do you have to cook anything? Or do you
Joe
have
and
to put
I
it
are
on?
exchanging looks because we
It's been 15, 20 minutes since you've been out.
There's nothing you have to cook the last minute, is there?
No, Izzy, but
Then
it's
hold the
been
horses.
15, 20 minutes since you put the fish on, Isadora and
We're
Kim.
going to be talking until it's ready if you keep this up. I mean, how do I, sure I know when I put it on. I play by feel. Anyway, we went there and, age, I was 12.
Yeah,
So Joe
okay.
had to be,
So-
Joe had to be 10 and a
Okay,
half.
so this was 7 years. I was 7 when the style shop was open. I thought it was earlier than that, but that's okay.
Well,
That's
it.
probably right. Okay.
Well, I don't know, you weren't born when I went to the style shop. I went up there when I was 19 years old. I was 7
Yeah,
years later.
7. So I was 7.
7 or 8.
And Jean was, and she was 4. Okay. I thought it was early. Okay.
So we're having spaghetti at Baroni's, and he came around, he says, Mr. Glass,
The midget.
not the midget,
Oh, Veroni.
the old man, what was his name, Pete, or?
I don't remember his name.
He said, you like to go to California? Well, Sam Glass didn't like to go to California, he was just opening up a store, and he had work to do. But he exchanged looks with me. He knew I had nothing better to do. I think I have 35 cents in my pocket. He said, why don't you go? I said, it might be a good idea. Wonderful. He gave me $25 and I took off.
Exactly.
I called my mother and said, when are you coming home? I said, I'll be home 60 days from now. I'm going to California. Or later.
And what was it for?
His son was a midget, had an orchestra, in an orchestra. And somehow or other he had a contract with MGM to appear in something. And I had a sure guaranteed trip out because he was kind of skeptical about the language. He was uncertain about driving himself. This is 1929. And
Did you drive out there?
we drove.
You and the midget?
We didn't go by plane.
I just meant, was it a train or a something?
Oh, there were trains running, but nobody had train fare. We had an old Buick that he had, and he didn't really know how to read road maps or drive that well, but he had a relative in Chicago, so that was our first stop. We stayed there that night. And then went on, we had most of our lunches out of tin cans. He had a pasta that he was making. And we crossed the desert. We put water bags on to make sure we'd stay at Indio that night, and went across. And fortunately, I had an uncle there who had a haberdashery. I had a lot of aunts. I had relatives there.
That's right.
All of my mother's sisters lived there. So I got there on a Thursday, checked in with one of our aunts who had a place I could sleep. Miller. Contemporary.
Lucy Miller?
Right. And my uncle had called up a firm down there doing business with a men's furnishing jobber, Klein Norton. And I went down there one Friday, or I think the next day, Friday or Monday, and got a job.
Really? In California? I didn't know. I've never heard that story.
Stayed there for a year.
Did you really?
Stayed there for a year. I didn't have enough carfare to get home, and I had a chance. I was earning at that time. I got a big promotion. I was earning $17.50 a week, and I was doing the job of a fellow who got killed on an accident, who they were paying $150 a month. But they boosted me from $15 to $17.50.
What were you doing, Izzy?
I was a stock clerk in a big. You think your Uncle Manuel had a jobbing house? This organization that exists today, they had 21 salesmen on the road
Is
on
that
the West
right?
Coast. And I was helping. I finally learned how to make up the sample lines. Because this fellow was romancing somebody there, and he wasn't doing his work, and I was taught me how to do it. So he was in love with the president's niece, and he got decapitated one night.
Serious?
Yeah,
Literally?
he did. And I knew how to do his work, so they gave me a $2.50 raise, and I decided I wasn't going to get rich there, so I quit. I had a chance to get a job in Duluth, frankly, with a Syrian driving him, who was peddling watches in the lumber camps. That's how
Oh,
That's how, yeah.
I was telling
That's how I
you,
got to
That's
lumber
how-
camp.
I wanted you to tell
go
him that
on.
story.
That's
Yeah,
how I
that's
got
true.
to lumber camps.
That, I wanted,
He couldn't drive, he had a bad heart. So they wrote me, the silos wrote me and said, you get a chance to get a job here for $25 a week. Then plus the commission on the watches I could sell if I advanced to that.
Mm-hmm.
I was selling watches after a while, doing very well.
Is that right? Time for this.
Anyway,
Instinct says the fish is ready.
Okay.
Done better than I went to Syria. I remember when I went to work for him, he wanted somebody to drive. Izzy was still in California.
oh, this was before he started selling.
I
Oh,
didn't sell, I just drove him.
oh, you drove him while he sold.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but he was a Syrian. And he'd been doing it for years, I suppose. He'd go into a camp every night,
Uh-huh.
and they'd sell a watch. And they got lumberjack. They take it out of the spade. They sleep in shacks, You didn't sleep on straw mattresses. But he'd go out for 3 weeks, go home 1 week, and come back. I don't know, I'd last about, I don't know how many months, maybe about 3-4 months at the most. I couldn't take it anymore.
But you just drove him? You
I
drove him around?
But
Yeah,
he
we
didn't
were-
realize what trouble he was in.
We were knocked
Right.
off on a road, robbed.
Really?
Oh, no.
They got us
Guy
in
was family
between
killed.
Ironwood and Iron River, and there, and them winding roads that they used to have.
Yeah.
And it was somebody that he hired after I was with him. one of his lunch.
Is this your drink, honey?
Syrian.
Do you want it?
They knew every movie he made, you know.
Why don't you
yeah.
sit down where you're comfortable?
So when we're coming back, I let him drive the car because he wanted to learn how to drive. But on the way back, they ran him into the ditch and they took the wires off of the car, the spark plugs, and threw parts of
While
it.
you were in the car?
Huh?
While you were
When you were
there?
with them?
Oh, yeah. But, and they come through the town. When we got to the town, I finally found everything and be able to go. They said they come through there, the car come through there, I don't know, going,
They want to sit down.
I forget how fast, but really going, you know.
Yeah. Getting,
They had it all planned because they knew him, you know. The kid that he hired after me was a Syrian kid, you know. And he's Syrian.
So tell him what happened to the guy.
Oh, finally they caught up with them.
The guy who held you up?
They served time.
he
There's
succeeded
some relatives from Kansas City, you know, were in on it.
Yeah,
But,
and finally the guy got killed, didn't he?
oh, Abdallah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember Swore told me he wished you'd come in and talk to him because
He
he's
was
a
a
relative.
relative.
Yeah.
This man, you know, you wonder why you sell watches in a lumber camp. They wake up, there's no time clock. They wake up with a gong at daybreak. They work until sunset. But I figured this out after a couple of trips. We'd sell watches to the same people. Not 3 weeks later, but 3 months later. There's a turnover. They get enough money to go to town, they get their steam off and have fun and pawn the watch.
Saw the same people sometimes every month, same thing. They use it for Ace in the hole. They always have a watch with a drum.
You see, this is security.
These are,
They didn't have any lumber camps.
No wonder it was such a good business.
oh, sure. Lumber camp, they go up in Michigan up there and you'd walk into camps that are built into the woods, you know, they'd go, the first camp might be a mile in, and you carry a pack-sack, walk in. You stay overnight, and you keep going. There might be 5 or 6 camps, but you have to keep going.
Yeah, but they don't brown it.
And,
That's why I want.
By the time you reach maybe the last one, you're in there maybe several miles, you know. You got a pack-sack with a couple of cases of watches on. So you have to wait for that train to come back in to bring some of the lumberjacks in. But they would sell like watches, like expensive watches, a lot of them good watches.
really?
21, 23 jewel railroad watches. But they only, it was something that they always had a jug for. When they're broke, they could always take the watch and get a jug. When we'd go into town sometime, we'd meet him on the railroad tracks. He'd be sleeping with a jug
I like them to
on the side of the road, you know.
No more watch.
No watches.
No,
They were broke, they had nothing. Then they'd have to go in for another 3 months or so to build up a little reserve going.
how much were the watches, Joe?
All right, kids.
How much were the
Should we
watches?
take this
Oh, hell,
for that
not
blind?
exactly, but, you know, they were,
I'll take it.
Decent.
if you compared it to today, they'd be expensive watches because they were the good ones. They weren't junk, you know, they weren't cheap watches. But they'd buy them. It was just like having like security, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
when we bought the car, when he went on the first trip, my 29 Ford was like $500, brand new,
Yeah,
you know. I drove it from Duluth, first trip, Ironwood, Michigan, 125 miles. It took all day. 15 miles an hour because you wouldn't let me drive it. didn't want to ruin the motor, you know,
Right.
So new,
to
yeah.
break it
Yeah,
in.
you have to break them in.
Sure.
You'd have to drive them slowly to break them in.
Drove it in there, beautiful little car.
Yeah.
Oh.
Remember, it was a blue, dark blue,
Uh-huh.
perfect, you know.
Really? Yeah. That's something.
But I forget what year it was.
gonna say, was he dark too?
I was at the bus depot, had the cigar stand down there. And I take the paper, the guy's paper come out at midnight, Duluth paper.
Mm-hmm.
Just got the thing closed up.
I understand. I don't know.
Yeah,
Or
Duluth and murdered,
they, you know,
the guy I worked for.
Izzy or.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Or my father.
Well,
Who
Izzy-
knows?
Izzy-
But you know, when I go out.
It didn't give the details, but I know what
I
happened,
went out,
you
you
know.
know, when we go out for dinner. with
Somebody
my
killed him.
I'd walk with him in.
He was playing around with the same woman.
He would go with my
He
dad.
was, this guy was a married man, he had about 7 kids,
But you know,
little, like steps.
I was
Yeah,
a child and,
Evidently, he got mixed up down there, and somebody,
Wrong place.
yeah, in them little towns in Michigan. Anything could get up. And sure enough, when I read who it was, it
now who do you want where?
kind of surprised, you know, it didn't really, naturally it surprised me, but I knew that he was playing around anyway. But he was a good guy to work for. Yeah.
That's something.
He'd give you, I never paid for a pack of cigarettes. I always had cigarettes. Food, never eat the best, you know. But he didn't pay too well, a couple dollars a day, plus all of the goodies.
Right, right.
But I got sick one time out there.
And, should we put Robin, we'll put
I was
Robin
eating,
there.
I got made a pig of myself. I was eating
Between two gals, how's that?
okay.
fresh donuts. We were in a Ford camp, and it's the only place they had metal, you know, decent silverware
Yeah, sure.
or plates, you know, most of the places just had tin plates, you know. They had ceramic plates.
Come on. I'll sit here.
And I ate these fresh donuts,
Robin and Joey, please come in.
had the
Robin, we'll put
runners.
you up there, dear.
so
Joe in the middle.
Okay, put Joe in the middle.
I wanted to go home.
Joe can
He
be
didn't.
between
So-
the two girls.
Oh, no, I think he was doing it because he wanted, because I wanted to go home and he wanted to stay,
Beth, you and I will sit
you
here.
know, a little longer.
Yeah.
So I stayed. I was sick for about a week. I couldn't.
But if anybody, was anyone like wine
Stomach
with
was
their
bad.
fish?
So about a week, I don't know, about sometime later, maybe 10 days later,
Joe, come on.
he was eating fresh cucumbers. He almost died. I said, no, I don't want to go home.
over the part of the store. And he would tell me stories about, he had a wonderful imagination, and he would tell me these wild stories about these imaginary characters. We would sit back and read it. It was such fun. But I remembered that house very well. It was sad to see
Who was that?
away. Al. Cousin Al.
What sort of stories?
Oh, he would tell me stories about little men who were, you know, this big. Yeah, he was the one who told me about it. David's story. He told me the Whisker story, his grandpa and
What's that?
the Whisker story.
I mean, whether it's.
Well,
I don't know.
there were pictures. There were pictures of relatives who had long beards in the hallway. Do you remember this, Gene?
What?
Yeah, at Grandma's house, the room where the stairs went up.
Sure.
There were pictures.
That's what the cards were. That's why I remember it.
Sure. Well, there were pictures of these relatives with long beards, and Izzy would tell me stories. I mean, cousin Al, we'd sit on the steps, and he would tell me stories about the Vitzker family. And he would say, and he would tell. Did you remember that? Yeah. He would tell, and I remember the story I remember most was the story about this Mr. Vitzker was sitting on a bus. Or on a streetcar, and his beard was growing, and his beard grew through the seat, and it grew through the person in front of him, and everything. I never forgot that story. Oh, he would tell these wild stories about the Vitzkers. And the stories all had to do with their beards. I mean, the beard always played a very important part.
Well, they were very
People
serious
then all
looking.
had beards.
Yeah, and they were very serious looking because they were formal poses. And they were all, you know, so serious looking, and then the beard on top of it.
And they were kind of pointy beards, so that you could see, I mean, that they were sharp. You know,
No.
they would grow through anything.
Oh.
Oh, dear.
No, we were talking when we were at the reunion about, we really had a good time when we were growing up. There, here, wherever, it was a good time. Everybody had a good time.
Did you get a sign off from all these people on taping this stuff? You can't do it. Lawsuits like here, I warn you. I warn you, you don't know who you're dealing with.
Well, it's sort of a...
Let's know the
Yeah,
way
he's
here.
got, you have to,
Yeah.
you have to take this back and talk to the rest of the relatives
That's right,
about it.
sure.
Yeah.
It's my duty.
That's the truth,
Well, it's all right, yeah.
Yeah, but you see, the reason we started all of this was he enjoyed those stories so much. And he said, we have to remember those stories.
And he didn't even see Joe very long, did he?
Anyway, but that's why we got the recorder. Then he said, we gotta put it on tape.
Right.
So,
I thought you said where about that thing.
that was the other one. There were two of them. This is the brother
No,
that's
there's nothing
looking,
there, you don't even see the
that's
town.
looking for
There's
it.
a sign, it says Odana that way.
The Indians are
I got
tired of
sugar
waiting for
here
you.
too, Joe likes sugar.
That's just like mine,
Oh,
isn't it?
Beth, that's good.
Huh?
Yeah, we were gonna go there. We were gonna go there, and we didn't make it.
We used to duck when I went
Right.
to Odana.
Please
They
eat
told
the
me the
fruit.
Indians would
Eat the fruit.
think I'd been stolen from them.
You might eat fruit, a little fruit for breakfast.
There's more raspberries now, just pick them off there.
So what about the stories, was Aunt Jean also involved?
In
When
what?
you go and drink beer and
No,
go fishing
no,
and...
she wasn't.
I was just involved when they were drinking wine. I was never involved when they were drinking beer.
Never did like beer.
No, never really did.
Well, after all, she was 4 years older.
No, Billy Wallace.
3 years? Was it 3 or 4?
3.
Seniority.
I'm gonna
The
pour
house
the
in
coffee and
Gloria.
hand it over.
All right, good. I'll be right here.
We went,
Oh, okay.
we was up the river. His wife was Irene, and his name was Billy or Jimmy. And he had the tavern.
Was,
Was it Was?
Billy was.
You said that name. It was Irish. I thought it was an Irish
Joe?
name.
I don't care. Whoever.
Okay.
But I remember
That was a
Somebody
hangout.
prefer tea?
right up the next block.
Right.
Okay,
Would
yeah, and
somebody
that's it.
prefer
I tried to think
coffee?
of
What about Percy?
We're doing fine.
Was
We're
he-
doing
he
fine.
was there, he's,
You want some coffee, Robin?
Please, after
he was there 5 years ago or so.
You don't have to have coffee, we got everything.
I know you have everything.
it was 15 years ago.
Here, Gene.
And he was there, thank
15
you.
years ago.
And you, good.
That's all right, we answered it,
Percy
whatever.
Ross?
No.
Percy Ross?
Oh, Percy, sure.
Ross.
I did hear of
He
him.
heard the story.
Thanks,
Let's see
thanks
how
a
many,
million.
Is he?
Merci.
You and I.
McCarty.
Do you take
I
sugar?
got a tea.
No,
He gave away
Yeah.
bicycles, he
He's
stole
throwing-
$1,001
I did hear about that.
just to get the kids to follow him. This is the guy who likes to follow him.
He's the one who, he came
You
in
only
a
want
big
one
stretch.
cup. I don't need
Remember
yours.
we picked you and Nana up?
Another cup.
He lives in, Wintertime, he winters in Palm Springs. Friends of mine.
Oh, does he?
Oh, I didn't know he was in Palm Springs.
We were out there for a couple of weeks, he was supposed to play golf with us one day.
No, but I mean, you and I,
But,
what I'm saying is if you haven't got enough.
he's
No, I've got
a
no, I've
man
got enough for
that,
us, but,
probably needs to inflate his ego a little more, so he does these things, but
Well, he's making up for what he thought were slurs when
he's
he
not
was
that
young.
generous.
Does anyone like more than one cup of coffee?
This is fine for me.
How about you?
$1,000, he's a big man.
Did you want some more?
Throws $1,000
We all like
$1,000 out.
I think this is
Yeah.
fine.
That's all the
Yeah.
stories here.
well, we can
Yeah.
take more.
You don't
I
have
don't know if I
to.
told you, but after I
It's
told
fine.
him,
Get these off the table.
I wouldn't let him work at his Guava Club. He
Oh,
applied for a job and he wouldn't let him work there.
years ago.
And he was, and
Does everyone have
people
a,
weren't nice to him in town.
Joe, aren't you gonna have some fruit?
So he was gonna show everybody. And you know where he took his money, soon we called him, they made him a big deal.
Who are you talking about?
Percy Ross.
Oh. Well,
I remember our friends know him from socialize with them. And, they don't have that much to do with it. But I understand from the legitimate fundraisers for good, legitimate causes that he really doesn't pay his dues.
Not for sure.
His aunt lives in Sarasota, and his first cousins are there.
His aunt or her?
His aunt. Merle is married
Mashed
to
potatoes and
Oxman.
a cake?
And Oxman,
Yeah, I read it for
Jerome
years.
Oxman.
Was part of
How
the,
many, how,
part of the,
Well, I've got a recipe that calls for
Yeah.
a smaller cake,
Yeah.
and that
One
is
of the
3/4 of a cup
younger,
of mashed
none
potatoes.
of them
One younger than
See, that's why
Honolulu,
it's
is he?
moist,
married a fellow in Superior who has a
because it's got mashed potatoes for the mashed
processing
potatoes. It keeps it
cone.
moist, and keep it
Cone.
for a long time.
didn't do too well.
it's very good.
Thank you.
But the most interesting story,
I took a couple of raspberries. I don't think
If they don't eat this fruit, I'm gonna be
who
very
was the
unhappy.
fellow that had
Never speak to
the,
that's,
You know what you
Druggist
can
in
do?
Superior.
You can have
Red.
raspberries.
Yeah,
on
they
your
do.
in the morning.
he had these daughters, that's the, yeah,
With all
she's, yeah,
Sorry about that.
yeah, they're all dolls, they're all gaboors.
Yeah? Maybe we didn't
Yeah.
put it on our plate when we were eating fish. We could have,
I don't know.
huh?
What?
You have to
Come
eat
on.
fruit. You got too much fruit.
No.
So the Levin Jewelry Company ad in here was turned into Style Shop when I don't know what happened to Levin's. I guess they were old. And Nelson's Dairy Lunch at 108 5th Street. Well, they moved. Nelson's Dairy Lunch and Home Baking. That became the Parkside. Nelson's Bakery, and that Nordine's wife, Lois Nelson, who has cancer, who was sitting at the bar. That's her family, Lois Nelson's family. Alec, her uncle. Do you remember Alec, her uncle? Is a little small guy with red wavy hair, kind of short, tight wavy hair, let's see. Some idea of the size of the Calumet Nickel mining location. We don't need to read 100 miles of streets or levels, to be exact, which have been opened up for the removal of the copper contents of the rock. Over 1 billion feet of timber has been sent underground to support the hanging and provide for the safety of the men employed there. In addition to this great amount of timber, the usual rock pillars have been left, and a large amount of steel pillars used in place of the timber, the latter becoming not only scarcer, but too valuable to use where steel is really more practical. In addition to the comfortable homes provided, there are many other evidences of the belief of those in charge of this great organization that contented people are a valuable asset to a community. In the many fine churches, schools, hospital, bathhouse, oh God, I forgot about the bathhouse, libraries and other public buildings that have been built either wholly or in part by the company. The school system and the magnificent public library are treated elsewhere in this book, but a special mention should be made of the public bathhouse. This building fronting on Calumet Avenue was erected a few years ago at a cost of $50,000 and is up to date in every particular.
$50,000?
Yep. The service is absolutely free except for a charge of 2.5 cents per bath, which is merely to cover the cost of washing the towels. The service is entirely free to women and children, and the large number attending the bathhouse attest to its popularity.
Yeah. It's worth it, Robin. It was worth it.
In 1904, the company started a pension fund, and pensions ranging from $9 to $38 per month have been paid to those who have been in the employ of the company for 20 years or more. Well, but they weren't making a whole lot. The company has been a very large contributor to all propositions designed for the general welfare of the people. In addition to the large number of churches on company land, they have donated sites in the village of Red Jacket for schools and made liberal cash contributions toward the erection of such buildings. Calumet proper, there is no city, town, nor village organization, the only local government being the Township Board, composed of a supervisor, clerk, and 2 justices of the peace. Although there is a polyglot population of something like 40 different peoples, the laws are unusually well observed, a well-organized police force having little to do in the criminal line. In all the years that the company has been doing business, there has been but 2 general stores on the property. The old Calumet store, which stood near the Calumet M.E. Church on Calumet Avenue, and the Heckler store, which stood near the Heckler Machine Shop. The first of those 2 burned down in the early 90s and was not rebuilt. The latter was conducted by Charles Briggs, and when he retired from business and closed out his stock, the building was removed. For many years, the late George W. Shears conducted a meat market near the building now occupied by the Central Employment Office of the C&H. Huh? Meat market.
Flea market back here, sorry.
Oh, meat market. I'm sorry. He said flea market.
There's a big flea market back there.
Oh, back there. Oh, I thought you said, because I said meat market, I thought you thought it was. Oh, dear. Anyhow, I talked about the stores that then they were open.
That's interesting.
They moved to Heckler Street.
It's really hard to believe that it was such a thriving community.
Yeah.
You know?
And
But
where the post office
$50,000
was, and where the printing
bathhouse.
office was.
In 1915, I mean, that was a tremendous... I mean, when you figure that it costs 2.5 cents to take a bath.
The theater they built cost, what, $75,000?
Yeah.
That's quite a theater.
Yeah, it was.
I'm sure there's something in it about that. It talks about the old Calumet Hotel on Calumet Avenue, which is, where Bobby lives. Along one of the important hostelries of the Copper Country stood where the present Calumet Hotel stands, but the building was taken apart in sections and turned into dwellings in the 70s. That's the 1870s. Taken apart and turned into dwellings in the 70s when the present hotel was built. The Calumet of old was certainly a very different proposition from the Calumet of today. And a glance at the plate showing a bird's eye view of the mine in 1881, the stamp mill of the early days, the view of the old number 5 Calumet shaft with its elevated tramways, and the view of the timber gang handling timber with the yoke of oxen with the Calumet post office in the background, compared with the plate showing the modern buildings, emphasizes this as no mere words can do. The company has built all the schoolhouses on their property and leases them to the Board of Education at a nominal rental. And then it goes on about the armory and the light guard. The armory was built by the Calumet Mining Company at a cost of $33,398.66, and is rented to the state at a rental of 3% per annum on investment. One of the finest bands in the United States, not accepting the professional organizations, has its home on the Calumet Heckler property. It was organized in 1872 and has been steadily gaining in efficiency.
Never mind the music, it's a lot more efficient.
And today is the pride of the entire copper country of Michigan. No effort has been spared to make it the premier organization of its kind in the country, as many of its members have been secured from professional organizations. It is supported largely by the Calumet Heckler organization, and a proof of its popularity is shown by the great attendance at its out-of-door concerts, which are given weekly either at home or at the subsidiary mines of the companies in the 2 counties of Houghton and Keweenaw. 3 fire companies are maintained. Here's a big ad for Burton Brothers, 35 years of faithful service. They were there for a long time. An organization peculiar to this company is that of the blind miners. Even those who are blind feel better when having something to take up their spare time and do not wish to be considered objects of charity. The company has equipped a little factory for the manufacture of brooms, the blind men being employed there, where they have become as proficient as many possessed of their eyesight. They turn out a great number of brooms, and the thoughtful people of our community insist always upon the brooms being made by the blind miners of Calumet. I do remember that. We had brooms for the blind. In this way, helping the men along and making them feel independent. This little industry will attain large proportions in time, taking in all who've had the misfortune of losing their eyesight, as the number of accidents which result in blindness is happily, through the efforts of the Safety First organization and the increased care exercised by the men themselves, decreasing.
Implying that they became blind through working.
Yeah. Then there's a lot about the history of the mining company, how they extracted this from an article on the development of the copper industry by J.N. Wright, a former superintendent of the company, written about 1895, after he had ceased his connection with the mine. So it tells all about the drills and the wages and what they're. I'm not going to do that. Here's the Calumet State Bank and the daddy of them all, Lakeside Floral Company, with Alfred W. Lork as the manager, and he had places in Houghton, Chassel, and Calumet. The oldest floral firm in the copper country. We operate the largest greenhouses north of Milwaukee. Our employees are experts in their particular lines. We want you to make your floral business, and if the best is none too good for you, we get it. We want your floral business, and if the best is none too good for you, we get it. Calumet's leading hostelry is the Hotel Michigan. Buffet and connection. Rooms with and without baths. So that's the hospital, number 2. They don't have...
There we go again.
They have numbers on the pictures, and they don't have...
The washers on. Oh, that's good.
Here's Herman Brothers, pianos and jewelry. 109 to 111 5th Street. Okay. That's whose music store that was. I think. Years ago, this is from the ad. 50 years ago, at the time that the first cat work was being done on the now famous Calumet Heckler Conglomerate Road, there was established in Keweenaw County near Phoenix a little firm selling watches, clocks, jewelry, and silverware. That firm was Herman Brothers, Joseph and John, and was known all through the Keweenaw mining district as a reliable firm to deal with. 4 years later, these brothers dissolved partnership, with John Herman remaining at Phoenix and Joseph Herman coming to the newer location of Calumet. Here in 1870, Joseph
Phoenix?
Herman...
Phoenix, Arizona, or Phoenix?
No,
Phoenix.
The Phoenix mine where we...
Okay. I was going to say everything's reversed because all the people are going to Phoenix now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here in 1870, Joseph Herman founded a business that was to grow in the years to come, not only to be the largest of its kind in the copper country, but to grow greatly in the estimation and esteem of the copper country people. And then it says, Mr. Herman and his sons, it goes on about some more, worked together, watching with an honest pride the steady growth of their trade, believing and holding firmly to that belief.
Two-way or one-way?
This is two-way.
Okay, we gotta get out of here.
I can't
one-way
tell.
back there.
Well, I don't know. Maybe two. See what happens with my car. I think maybe it is one way. But I can't tell. There's a yellow line on the other side.
Yeah, looks like two-way. I mean, it looks like one-way. Oh, I'm Carlos on the other.
Yeah. It's
lane.
It's
Yeah. It's one-way.
anyhow. That's about. In the history of the mining company, it says among the Cornish customs brought by the miner to America was that of hospital privilege and medical attendance. The company.
Up here.
Oh my gosh!
Well, there's a
Honey gets on fire when we.
Yeah. What's that wild rice that done us in?
No kidding. That's right, the hero of the turn. The company provided and equipped a building to be used as a hospital for sick and injured men. It was in charge of the mine physician who was paid a salary to attend them but could collect no fee. A small sum, usually 50 cents for each single man, and $1 for each married man was charged them monthly, and for this they were entitled to medicines and attendance free, like an HMO.
Mm-hmm.
When in hospital, the men were charged with the regular rate for board, but nothing for medicines or service. The hazardous nature of their employment, causing frequent accidents, made some such system necessary for the safety and comfort of the men, proper treatment at their homes often being impossible. This plan in some form is still in vogue at the mines. Talks about how wonderful the hospital was, and they treat their employees with such generosity. Of course, this publication was, just a little bit, biased. A little biased. I mean, after all, one would not bite the hand that feeds you, right?
No, you're not going to buy that paper if it says nasty things about the mine. To live in the community.
Yeah, they have an aid fund, and the company's last report, the aid fund, showed assets amounting to over $130,000.
Boy. Better than Social Security.
Since we began collating material for this book, we have been told many anecdotes about the early days in this community. One relates to a man known to all of the early day people. Peter Sauer. Along in the late 60s, about the only means of communication between Calumet and Red Jacket was a crooked tail of a path closely bordered by dense woods. Well, I think that was down 7th Street. Mr. Sauer was returning to Red Jacket from a visit with a sick friend, and when midway between the two places was set upon by two men who proceeded to do him up. Do him up. This wasn't as easy as it looked, for he, being a man of remarkably powerful physique, gave them a hard tussle, but was finally overpowered and his pockets searched. The net result was a nickel. As Mr. Sauer got up and moved away, the following conversation ensued. Who the devil is that modern Samson? Modern Samson. Why, that been Peter Sauer. That been Peter Sauer. Who do you think it been? Well, I didn't know who it was, but let me tell you, Jake, it's a dang good job that he didn't have 10 cents with him. Sure, if he did, he'd have killed the both of us. What's her name could have read that last night. Here's the Bush Brewing Company. Prohibition versus temperance. Now, I've always heard about the Bush Brewing Company. And Peter Ruppe, remember when we came back the other night and they said, where Peter Ruppe's house is? It was across on the right side of, on the south side of Pine Street. In that block between 8th and 9th Street. 7th. Yeah, between 8th and 9th Street. Anyhow, Peter Ruppe was about our age, maybe a little bit older, and his grandfather was a Bush. And they lived in, I think, the old Bush house. It was a nice house, or maybe not. Maybe that was their house, but I remember his grandfather his mother was a Bush, and so I always thought that the Bush. When I heard about Anheuser-Busch, I thought it was the same family. I always thought it was a Bush family.
Too.
That's B-O-S-C-H.
Yeah.
Bush
Well,
family.
also, really, that's one of the reasons people knew who people were. Because there were a lot of, there weren't that many people,
No.
and then there was the association of this one's
Sure.
relative was a Bush,
Sure.
and this one was a this, and that one's the Wycliffe, he was the doctor.
All these
and-
pictures, and they don't have them identified. This was all Red Jacket, I think. And here's the thing about Alexander Agassiz's trials and hardships in the pioneer days. The real story is related by George R. Agassiz in his father's letters, first experience of the CNH years of
Did you say
disappointments.
George?
Yeah, George R. Agassiz.
Well, I thought Louis was the one.
Well, I guess Louis was
it was a different one.
Was the scientist? Who was the scientist? One of them was really.
No, but I thought Louis Agassiz was the famous one. Am I wrong?
Alexander. Well, I think Louis Agassiz is the one who maybe was at Harvard pit, and being an intelligent man became interested in examining the hole. It appeared to be artificial. A huge hemlock standing on the refuse thrown up on the edge of the pit bore evidence of its extreme age. Clearing away the rubbish at the bottom, he found a very considerable quantity of verdigris. This pit is now supposed to have been a prehistoric cache. On Isle Royal is now supposed to have been a prehistoric cache. On Isle Royal, an island opposite Keweenaw Peninsula, there are remains of ancient workings on copper veins. It is thought that the Indians, after mining there in the summer, would in the fall paddle to the peninsula and cross it on their way south. A party of Indians overtaken by an early winter would have chosen such a spot to cache their copper, for the location of the hole was such that the lay of the land would enable anyone who knew of it to find it easily. We must imagine that any one of 100 possible calamities overtook these primitive miners, who never returned for their treasure, which in the course of time weathered into verdigris. Now, you know, they did find copper that had to come from the copper country way down, all the way down in Central America, all the way down.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There's no
They
other
traded. No, there's no other copper that it could have been. It was hammered native copper.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else it could have come from.
No.
Well, that's interesting.
Anyway,
So that's how they found out about the copper.
that's how they found out about the copper. Then he didn't know that at the time, but then looking about the vicinity, he found a few hundred feet to the southwest a huge block of conglomerate rock cemented together with particles of copper. From the appearance of this piece of rock weighing many tons, he was convinced it was near to its original position. He knew something of the formation of the country, and he concluded he was close to a stratum of copper-bearing rock. After removing several dozen barrels of verdigris from the pit, he was surprised to find no further traces of copper. It was not until he had blasted a few feet below its bed that he uncovered a load of copper-bearing red conglomerate similar to the great piece of rock to the southwest. By the merest coincidence,
What
the
kind of light
pit...
is this? Will you tell me what kind of light? Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Is it upside down?
No, but it was red and green at the same
Oh, I
time.
see.
Like a warning.
Yeah.
The red's coming.
Gee whiz, I don't know. I've never seen one that was both red and green at the same time.
I've seen those someplace else.
Have you?
But,
Oh, okay, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no,
Go
that's
ahead.
all right. Anyhow, so then they went on and they got the money and
Okay, we're to
Aren't
north.
there these kind of nasty
Are we going
letters
north?
exchange?
253. Yeah, I guess so.
yeah, this
I
is
guess so. I guess this is us.
we want to go
I
to
don't know what
53,
direction
I
I'm
think.
going in.
Let's see. Oh dear, what did I do with those
The
directions?
hardware movie theater.
What did I do with the
Maybe it's just the
directions to
hardware.
get back? Well,
Well,
there should be a
this is
sign that says Duluth.
This is a detour, and
Yeah.
we've been
Remember we
following
drove-
it, so
remember we
we've
drove
been in
around?
trouble. We're really in great
Yeah.
trouble. Cause
Remember we went around
Yeah.
the
Yeah, we
detour.
did all this.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's why it's okay. We're okay. I'm sure we're okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway,
I just didn't know what direction I was going in.
let's see. This is all from Agassiz. In the summer, after his father's return from Brazil, Agassiz took a vacation from the management of the museum. What is this? Where did his father go to Brazil? I didn't see anything about that. What's that all about? And the Kekkonen and the Carlton Hardware were opposite each other, and Irene,
Bless you, dear.
bless you, Irene, Dorothy Mae Larson's mother, Irene, who bought the style shop, was a Kekkonen, I think, not a Carlton. She was not one of those, but I think she was a Kekkonen. And the Budovinics Maybe she was a Carlton and the Buttavinicks were the Keckernens. Because Bobby and Bud and Betty lived lived above the Kekkernen store. I think they were Keckernens.
I couldn't even remember that Mary didn't work in the store because she was there all the time.
Mary?
I didn't remember that Mary didn't work, Cusso didn't work in the store.
Oh,
because
no.
She was there all the time.
That's right.
It's just
She worked in the office, in the CNH office.
See?
Mary was very, Mary had a kind of refined air about her.
Mm-hmm.
Della was wild. Della always looked a little wilder, you know.
Louder.
Yeah. And Minnie was Minnie. Shoot.
Should have called her. Well, I'll have to go back. All right, come on now. No. Shoot is right.
Had an organ. Man played the organ. Do you remember that? A man played the organ in the cafeteria. It was on this side of the street. Big cafeteria, and it had a balcony. And we used to go there and eat Blue Moon cheese sandwiches. They were Blue Moon cheese, and they toasted and put tomatoes in it.
Cheese.
Do you remember that?
That sounds familiar. It was white, wasn't it?
No, I think it was yellow.
Was it?
Right here in Duluth.
I just remember going from, Izzy's place at the bus station and then Siler's
There's
Jewelry
IDS. IDS Financial Services. Investors Diversified Services. That's where Nana had the account. It was like a, mutual fund in those days.
Oh, look at these two.
Cindy Stroll. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the hill I tried to get up because that. No, that.
That's gonna be a great picture.
Electus fetus.
I noticed that on the way in.
Downtown Duluth.
Look at all the signs. They're closing out their imaging. Don't worry, be happy.
Northern Lights. Across the street.
I never did see the Northern Light.
Got a couple of some.
No, but we do know about what are those guys in San Francisco who have the blue room, or the whatchamacallit brothers who have the blue room, Mitchell brothers who have the blue room.
I can see it.
That may not be it.
The holes in the wall.
Yeah.
They're looking at something over there. I don't know what, but-
Oh, kites flying.
It's like those people who the other day
When it
pulled over
branches
after
off-
they were looking for berries.
When it branches off to what is that building? Huh? It's London Road. It'll sort of branch off and go.
There's still a few. So Mr. Duluth? No,
And
that's
that's
Jay
the club.
Cook. That's the club where the party was.
Hmm?
Whose party was.
Oh, you know what? I think that they cut out that part that branched off to the.
Who was Mr. Duluth?
No, that was Jay Cook, that guy sitting there watching over everything.
We can go down this way and then to 21st.
Huh?
You can keep going down to 21st.
Keep going straight?
Oh, the good news.
See, that's right. The light is here, and here's the motel.
Okay, and
Backing
we'll
up.
turn in here.
Cheers, can you
believe
Gotta be ashamed of yourself.
Where did you just
Yeah,
I can-
Ricky Ross, that's
When I
what
drive to Florida, many times I drive, to
No,
Marquette,
right, yeah,
and to
I
the
didn't go to that
St.
one that
Ignace,
he created.
St.
So
Ignace,
I-
to the,
It's a
go
long
across the
story.
great big bridge and down past Detroit and Arbor 75, or else across at Sarnia to go to see Lizzie in Rochester. I drive 700 miles out of my way to look for trouble, you know.
Yeah.
Go visit your kids. Really, last year we went that way.
Well,
Went via Rochester, New York, 2,400 miles instead of 1,700. See? And then when I on the way back one day, we left Marquette, went right through Marquette, and Lil says, "Where do we have lunch?" I said, "I got a great place."
Darling,
I was traveling with the lumberjack camps, Bruce's Crossing. So I stopped at Bruce's Crossing. Fine restaurant.
yeah.
Yeah, sit down.
Izzy just said, when I was saying that I had been taping stuff, he goes, "Oh, well," because you won't have to work for the rest of your life. You can blackmail these two adults.
I'll tell you, most of it,
Izzy,
most of it
we
was laughter.
laughed, we
Most of it was
we
laughter.
giggled and laughed, and we telling old stories. Joe gave me a lot of history. Robin has been interested in putting together
You do?
a
You wanna spend a
family
month here?
tree.
Come on, you see it? I'll take you down the basement.
Sounds fun.
I'll take you. I've got a closet full of
Really?
your father.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding.
Closet
I'm
full
not
of...
kidding. I mean, we came here with the little toy palm, the toy Doberman pincher. So we used to walk into a bar and say, "Give us 3 drinks." 2. They put the pincher on the bar.
Sit down, kids. I
We
wanna-
see, have you got everything going?
I do.
What have you got?
I'm taping.
He has been
Oh,
recording.
You know what we're saying?
I'm fine.
Whatever you like. You know, it doesn't have to be.
Look at the sunset. Look at how beautiful. Look at that.
All right, come on, sit down, just anywhere.
I have to take a shirt
Are
off.
you thirsty?
I could have,
You want liquor, hard, soft, wine?
So if she ever criticizes you for it, you can afford to.
Oh, yeah.
We went to dinner. No, we went to Lake Linda.
Wait, excuse me.
Actually, a beer sounds pretty
Wait, do you want to wash? Would you like to wash?
We had the hotel.
We were just in
Oh,
Honestly,
no,
we're
thank
clean.
No, no, she said something about grubby or.
Oh, no, but I
didn't
didn't change into
We didn't
anything
change.
very fashionable.
I changed.
Oh, we're not taking pictures,
Doesn't have any
okay.
shoes on.
What do you know? Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
I washed 2
We're
cars.
taking pictures.
Oh, I'll get you beer.
Okay, that sounds great.
Oh, look at.
Sit by the tape
now
down,
he's
that's
in
okay.
You got to say it. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
I
all...
have to see, look at out here.
This,
the ground, was their floor. And we took pictures of the cooking utensils and all that stuff. And they had,
refrigeration.
elongated, if they had long noses, that was a sign of beauty, says the Tizzy.
It's gotta be relative.
And it's called Sam Blanc?
San Blas.
San Blas.
San Blas, B-L-A-U-S,
S-A-B-L-A-S.
the island of San Blas.
Now, were they Spanish speakers? Or it sounds like they weren't.
They
They were
were
Indians? They were...
Natives.
Yeah.
Natives.
You're covered.
Okay,
That's
I can't see anything.
People are taking
That's my
pictures.
heinous thing.
1, 2,
and my picture.
3.
Oh, it is.
Otherwise,
I've got
Come on.
pictures of you and you.
Oh, now you'll smile.
There you go. Okay.
Okay.
And you got something like
Now
this.
we'll get to, everybody
Well,
all together, but that was
in
too
Calumet,
big.
it was always, and I had never really heard that today, because 1, 2, 3, it was either
I
monkey or
think
whiskey.
I realized that after I took 428 bad pictures. So I realized
You
that
have
I
to
should
do-
have said,
Sure.
alert them.
Yeah.
Instead of this the candidates are right to take babies.
What I want
I've never heard about the money.
Before we go on to this other, Robin, where are you at now? I mean, are you,
What's your
in Hong
permanent
Kong?
address?
Said-
Lily would like to get in touch with you.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I have a permanent address right
No,
away. I live in Woodside, which is just north of Palo Alto, where the Stanford campus is.
Excuse me, how did you place him in Hong Kong?
Oh, he
Because
was
I was
there.
living in
That
Hong
was-
Kong.
Oh, was it living in Oh,
Yeah, I was living in Hong Kong for about a year, and then I came back and finished my MBA from NYU.
yeah.
So I was in and out of New York, and I was working in Hong Kong with Hewlett Packard. So I went back to work with Hewlett Packard at their headquarters, which is in Palo Alto.
In Palo Alto, I see. So
Right
you're
around
with
the
them,
Stanford campus.
so you're with them now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So now you're back in Woodside?
But yeah, I work in Palo Alto.
But he's with,
Yeah.
he's with Hewlett Packard.
But you're gonna be there for a while?
Oh yeah, I'll be there for a while.
We got a Robin for you.
Oh.
What's
Oh,
Robin. Cooper.
oh, she's gorgeous.
He's
He's
got
just
pretty
qualified. We wouldn't tell you about it.
No,
Oh, really?
aside
I-
from that,
I don't know how much
she's
your
just-
friends would feel about
Absolutely.
that, but
Yeah.
Oh, he has a
He's got a pretty
Well-
cute one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I know that she's got something to compete with, but I thought, I'll take it, I'll take a ticket.
Oh, I'm so crazy, but when you said Robin, you didn't give me the last name, Robin
good.
Cooper. Oh, she
So,
is.
she's
You don't have to change your stationery.
Robin? Oh, God. Oh, Robin.
Matchmaker,
You don't
matchmaker.
run into that often, you know.
No?
that's true. Although I did,
You-
it's funny. My high school
Is he?
sweetheart.
You know, they told me-
He doesn't need a matchmaker.
Oh, really?
I know
Our
that.
need a
algebra
matchmaker.
teacher
I
called
know
us
that.
R
but
squared.
I want to tell you something.
Oh.
Yeah,
No.
Every
she's
professional has an
married and has
agent.
kids.
I see, okay.
Robin, you,
This
is good.
this
This is
Usually,
this is someone that you're interested in then, I take it.
yeah.
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 Okay, forget it,
But-
Albert.
Wait a second. Now let's not be rash. No.
that's maybe why he came back from Hong Kong.
No, she was there. Wasn't she
there.
there?
Mhm. Yeah, she was.
See?
So,
All right,
That's why she came back from Hong Kong.
Because he came back from Hong Kong.
No, that's why she came back.
Yeah, because he came back.
Because he came
I
back.
might tell you, this gal's very discriminating. Very discriminating. And you'd have to fight for her, so this is no pushover.
Right.
I'll just tell you a little funny aside about this particular Robin. She's got a beautiful soul and spirit. And the whole
She's
thing.
here?
No, we met her in Sarasota, Florida. Her parents have an apartment in our building. And she was with, she's in business, and she was with, I forget that dress line. I'm at that age now where I forget. Your mother will still remember because she's coming back.
Oh,
Yeah, but
it's
they have
terrible.
Don't say too much, I'll be right
It's
back. I'll
terrible.
close my kettle.
They don't, I mean, with some of these places, they enclosed the porches, they added fake
Our
stone.
house in Calumet, they
Oh,
took the
God.
porch off and they built some kind of an entryway that sticks out, and then they got a garage attached in the front. It's so ugly, and the house had that nice porch. It was really just a nice
Now,
old house.
which one?
That was in Lorium, I mean.
In Lorium.
Yeah, and in
Yeah, I
Calumet,
mean-
they took the porch off too.
Do you know something? You know what somebody told me last night? They were talking about the taxes, and they said, don't be fooled by the outside. That people don't fix up the outside of the house.
You want to do the tax?
Because if you fix up the outside of the house, your taxes go way up. He says you
Oh.
go into some of those houses, and they're beautiful inside, but they won't fix up the outside, because if they fix up the outside, the taxes go up. So
Really?
that's what they were telling me last night.
Because of the value?
Yeah, because they're give them a higher assessment, but they don't come inside and look them over inside. So if the paint is peeling off the wall, off the outside of the house, and it looks all rickety, then your taxes don't go
Do you
up.
think that's why the
But-
people in Armeek had the
I
had the
don't
outside that
know.
way?
I don't
Yeah,
know,
the
but that's what
people-
we're telling.
the
That's
people-
what they
the
told me
people-
about Lorium.
Listen, excuse me, I think
Do you want
there's
me
a
to do
mix-up
something?
in the signals. No, I'm
Well,
not.
you're going to make sure.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
want to make sure.
Beth will
Okay.
be there.
So anyway, we get to the top of the hill, and here is this, and they've taken off the porch off the back of the house and put out a shed or something, and then they're not using the fence all over
This
the
is
road.
in Army.
You know,
In
I'm
Armeek.
at the top of the
Grandma
hill, the house where I was
Grandpa's
born. So then,
Oh,
I went
that's
around-
right, your
I'm
house,
gonna
okay,
kill that
excuse me.
fly,
I
otherwise
went around-
you're gonna have too much exercise, you'll lose 2 more pounds.
I went around to the side, and the porch is still there on the side, and then we realized the back door is where people go in and out of the house. And I'm taking pictures all around the house, and this woman stands outside, comes outside and looks. And I said, I hope you don't mind taking pictures of the, and the house looks terrible. Taking
Something
pictures of the
living there?
house.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Take pictures of the house because this is the house where I was born. She
Yeah.
said, okay. how did she find out we were glasses? Did I
Well,
tell her?
when you explained about taking pictures, and you
Yeah.
said, I was born in this house, my grandparents had the store down the
Yeah.
street, and my father and mother lived here, and I was born in this house, and...
You're talking about the house on top of the hill.
She's talking about the house on the hill.
Captain's house.
Yeah. And so here is this woman just standing there, and Bee's giving her this whole spiel. Oh, Glass Brothers.
No, she said first, she said, do you want to come in? I mean, and I had a feeling that I should say no. I said, well, gee, thank you, we're really going on, we just wanted to take you some pictures of the house, I wanted my son and sister to see the house. She said, I've got a plate that says Glass Brothers on it. I said, you do? She said, yes. She said, I found it at a rummage sale. I said, would you sell it? She said, no. Sure? She said, oh no. She said, I'm going to put it, when we get the house fixed up, I'm going to put it over the mantle.
She
So
said
I
it
said-
should stay with the house.
It should
She
stay
said
with the
because
house.
she had got in in searching the deed or something, she saw that Glasses were the second owners of the house.
So I said, can we take a picture of it? And she said, oh, sure. She come and see it.
Come
Come
in.
in.
I thought she'd bring it up. Well,
Sure, that's a house I
You
agree.
couldn't believe defies description.
Yeah.
She is head of the Humane Society.
Dogs and cats.
Cats.
Oh, cats, oh, my favorite.
Cats.
food all over it.
But, also, she said, well, you'll have to excuse it. She said, we are redoing the stairway. So
Redoing the story.
we come in the back door. There were maybe a half a dozen cat dishes on the floor with dried up food. They're redoing the stairway. What stairway, I don't know, but there wasn't that much space any place in the kitchen. It's like they had nothing in the cupboards. Everything was on the counters, was on tables. There wasn't
There were books, there were papers, there were
every place was
Yeah, there
covered.
was something.
shoes.
In the next
Clothes.
room was the dining room. Oh, there was some guy sitting at the kitchen table with his cup, and he paid no attention to us as we walked in and we're
There was a
talking.
kid there?
A man.
Well, the man.
Yeah, a
Oh,
man.
yeah, with bare
And he moved. As we were talking there, he got up with his cup and he walked into the other room. He didn't look at us. He didn't, we weren't there as far as he was concerned, but he moved into the other room. The dining room had something all over the floor that looked like kibble dog food. I mean, like this big, but it was sort of sprinkled all over the floor.
Living like
And
animals.
the table is covered with stuff, with papers and things. I mean, the place was
Just
just
unbelievable.
And she says,
And she
"You'll
went
have-"
apart with the plate.
No, but we did
No,
take a picture.
We did get the picture of
We
the
did
plate.
It said compliments of Glass Brothers on it.
It was a
She
cake
said, "Don't you
plate.
have one?"
Yeah.
And we said, no, that we didn't know anything. Oh, well, no, are you sure you won't sell it? No, she wouldn't sell it. But as I said, and then the funniest part of it is we went out and we're talking and talking, and this was sometime in the morning.
Well, I started talking about Uncle Albert.
Oh,
Then,
I don't know.
because Uncle Albert used to take me into the woods, and so we came out the door, and I said, oh, and Robin, before I forget, I want to tell you about the woods, and so none of us said anything about the house. We just kept going, and then we got back that night.
This was like at 11 o'clock
Yeah,
in the
mhm.
morning. And that
No,
night,
I
we're
said-
sitting around it all. Well, somebody said,
Oh, we were playing the tape, right?
oh, that
We
is
listened to the tape. Because I had the tape recorder
We
on.
all started comparing notes about the house.
And all of a sudden we realized nobody had said a word about the house and what it looked like inside. I mean, it was just gone. And as
Did you
we
leave your
started
name with
talking,
her so that if she ever changes her mind about the plate?
she is not gonna change her mind. She's not gonna change her mind.
She's gonna.
Oh, there were cats, there were, half a dozen
please.
cats.
She's
I
gotta
mean,
have
it
a
was-
plate to feed the cats, what are you talking about?
No, she's very proud of
she
this
was
plate.
proud.
Yeah,
She was very proud of it.
That was,
Yeah, I
Anyhow,
don't even know how
other
she
than
found
that,
it.
actually, everything was, I mean, we took pictures of Uncle Will's store this morning in South
was it a real
Range.
store in South Range?
No, we didn't
Mandibles?
that either. No, we didn't take
And
mandibles.
that's empty.
Handles and
A lot of stuff is empty. There are a lot of new buildings.
There are new buildings, the old
There are
building.
new
What about
houses.
Jaffe's?
I talked to Jay Jaffe. Harry and Lois are in
Scottsdale.
Phoenix, Scottsdale.
Who's Jay?
Jay is
Younger
Harry's
brother.
younger brother. He's about 3 years older than I am, 2 or 3 years older. And
Oh,
he's still there, he and his wife, still live there. He's retired about 7 years
still have a
ago.
store there?
I don't think so. I
There
didn't
are
see
any
his
shoe
store.
stores, nothing.
I didn't see his store there. Hogan is very busy because of the
College.
because of college.
College huge.
College,
They-
college is good.
they-
They
they-
have-
Seven,
they-
8,000
They probably have a
students.
medical center there too.
Sarah,
right?
7,000.
Isn't that an engineering school?
It was a mining school, yeah.
It's now an engineering school.
Yeah.
College is probably one of
That's
the
the
better
industry.
Yeah.
colleges
probably
in that
industry.
area.
I think they said they had 7,800 people in Houghton and 7,000 students
Sure.
at the college. So
Sure.
it was almost double. I mean, students.
But, you know, if you go, we laughed because we said, if you go up to locations, the downtown areas and all the old stores and everything are deserted. Everything looks bad. But if you go out to the locations, go to the Ami location, Red Jacket location, Calumet Avenue, things look nice. Everything is kept well. People have bought all those old houses from the mining company.
In Amique too?
Ami too.
People are living there?
Oh, there are people in Ami location, it's all filled up. There are people there, Copper City.
Mohawk
was
City,
great.
Mohawk looks wonderful.
Although people
What are they
claim that
gonna do for a living?
everything
I
is
don't know,
Tourism?
I don't know, but we got lost the other
Tourism.
night. We were looking, the sun was gonna set,
Yeah.
and we decided we would go find sunset. We had an old school friend with us, 4 of us. And so she said, oh, drive down to Bumbletown. I don't know where Bumbletown is. Well, we could go down to Alloway, and she thinks she knows the way, and we get through Bumbletown, and we should have stayed on top of the hill, and we could have seen the sunset.
Sure.
But
Up
we're
on
gonna
the
get
top,
closer.
the
We're
Eloise
gonna
is
get
beyond
closer.
Mohawk.
Yeah, no, before Mohawk.
And that was,
The circus was in Calumet?
is that Uncle Nathan?
Which one it
Uncle
was?
Nathan.
It was all right.
Well, I got these all
We wound up at the circus, and after the circus, we went to a dive with a stork. Nothing in it, you know, but in the back room, they were shooting crap.
Is that right?
We were there, I don't know, what, must have been about 1930,
I will give you these. I said, but you
oh,
better
36,
put them
37,
back
because
anyway.
I think he had a Pontiac, and he drove me back to Duluth.
Is that right?
I
Joe, it seems to me that I remember driving with you back one to Calumet. And I remember, wasn't Gene sleeping up in the back of the car, under the window in the back?
Model A Ford Coupe,
I remember that trip.
3 of us in the front, was Gene in the back.
He remembers too. Joe remembers so well.
How the hell can I forget? Flat tire in the spare. The other when raining pitch was.
It was raining, that's right.
Sure.
And the roads in those days.
Huh?
You went to a decent.
To come up quite often in aftertime. And, but she said that she had been up sometime last week or something like that with some relative.
She had just been here?
She had just been here, yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, I told her, because I called her the night before I left. And I was going to call her from Duluth. I think I've got a couple of hour layover in Minneapolis. And I was going to ask her if she was free. And the airport wasn't too far away. You know, I'd love to see her. But she's the one that told me about Marcia, and she said that call Marcia, she knows where everybody is, and that sort of thing. So I say, I didn't call Marcia, but Bobby had called Marcia. So,
Where's Jack? Is he in Milwaukee still? Jack Schneider?
No,
no.
Jack really had a terrible, Jack is in a wheelchair and has been for a number of years.
Really?
Yeah, it's really sad, Theo. He was, Bobby told me what happened. And it was a very complicated story, and I can't remember the details, but what happened, it started with something fairly simple, and then Jack got an infection and ended up paralyzed. He ended up with a tracheotomy. They did a lot of therapy, and he was in the Veterans Hospital on time. He had married late. I mean, he had a woman that apparently her name was Rita, and he'd gone with her for years. And I don't know, they must have got married about 10 or 12 years ago. I can't remember. After somehow, it was sometime after the 15th anniversary, because Ruth Hyde was here for it, and she let Jack know that I was around and gave him my address, and so Jack and Bobby both started writing to me. And anyhow, the next thing I knew, Jack had this terrible, he was in the Veterans Hospital, and then he just it was sort of compounding one thing after another till they didn't think he was going to live, and then somehow or other he did. Gradually he's regained enough, he can speak now, he can type, he's in a wheelchair, but they moved him out to Medford, Oregon because Dorothy lived out there. And so they thought that, and
Robert,
Jack used to be too.
oh yeah.
Jack was a madcap, sort of, wasn't he?
Jack was such a
Yeah.
nice
We got in
little
the car
guy.
to go. Robin and I got in the car. We were so tired because we'd driven from Duluth that day,
And Robin had come in that morning on the red eye. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Coming from California, leaving at midnight. Got in, and then we went to visit this aunt and uncle, and then we took off and drove. And got here just in time to go to Bobby's for dinner. And it was so hot, it was just awful. And I was really tired. I'm sure Robin was, having not slept on the airplane. And these two are going like this. And, by the time this time, I mean, it was in the house, but by the time we did get out of the house, then we got to the car. And then they're still like this. And it was really funny, I thought.
Wonderful.
Because he's pretty good, but I think he's even better. Talks even more.
Yeah. What happened to their sister, the one that used to write the novels? Jean?
Jeannie,
She's not Jean anymore.
No?
she's
What is
Gina.
She's Gina.
She makes everybody call her Gina.
Gina
G-I-N-A.
Gina Schmeller?
Gina, well, she's got another name. She married a couple times, yeah. And she is apparently
She was a
she
pleasant one.
developed into the character that we thought she was going to develop into.
Did she ever become a real writer?
Oh, I don't think so. Although she wrote me, I don't know. Then she discovered me about a year ago or two, and she wrote me this long. She wrote me about a 7-page letter, telling all
I
about.
don't remember that.
Oh, Jean was really
I got
something.
pictures of her.
But I was a captive audience more than once. She'd read me her story.
Oh,
And they were wild. I mean, they were just way out.
yeah. Well, I think her life has been. I think she's lived her life that way. She has she's quite. I mean, her face is really full. She was slender
Yeah.
face, but she's really full. I think of all the people that we know, she's undoubtedly the heaviest. And but she wears. There was one picture of her in a white wig, and another one in a brown, great big, wig with kind of,
It's just super dramatic.
Oh
right?
yes,
right.
always.
As a matter of fact, the picture I have of her, I mean, I remember it. We had driven up, I think it was when the pot had me, and we drove up north someplace, and there's a picture of her on the top posing on top of the car, by the side of the car.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah, that's right. And as a matter of fact, when Bob and Dolores were talking about her, and Jean described the picture, he said, "Well, that's right, that's Gina." So.
Oh, for Pete's sake. And what about their older sister? What was her name?
Well, they had a bunch of older sisters,
Did they?
and one of them married Andy Roach.
Oh, right.
And
What was
and
her name?
her name, I think that was Lou.
That sounds right.
It was Helen. Helen's
Jerry.
down. Jerry. Jerry died not long ago.
I didn't remember there was so
Helen,
many.
yeah, there were a whole bunch of them, and one of them married Andy Roach, and she died quite a while ago. I think she had a stroke. Then Helen, then Jerry. Helen and Jerry were down in Arkansas, and as a matter of fact, when Robin was down there in Vista, he wrote to me and said, that was when he was writing or talking to me or something, and he said, "Oh, be sure to have Robin go and see Helen And Jerry, I think it was.
He called me out the other night and said,
Yeah, because he didn't call. They were waiting for him to call.
Yeah, I remember those names now.
Yeah.
I've forgotten all of them.
They were all nice kids.
Yes, they were.
Gina
Very
was the
young.
only one who was really, really wild and goofy. Or at least I don't know if she was really wild. Yes, that's right.
And who used to play? Lou?
Well, the mother played,
'Cause I
Mrs.
remember
Schneller
going- That
played.
was the first time I heard.
And I
But
think-
you know, I still remember.
Oh,
They
really?
Yeah, one of the girls played on that. Oh, I love that song.
Oh, do you still play?
I have a nice piano, never play.
Really? Oh,
Theo,
God.
you
I
used to
don't know
play.
why. I know, I loved it.
Yeah, and I
Now
used to listen.
now I draw a little. I like portraits.
Do you?
Yeah,
Really?
pretty fair.
Well, how nice.
I enjoy that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
See, I didn't know that. Do you still play bridge?
Yes, I still
No
play bridge.
kidding.
Oh, sure, I play duplicate bridge. And
Oh, well, you two stay
and
playing
I
bridge.
golf and I read. Yeah. So, do you play duplicate?
Oh, I have. I've played for a while because a friend of mine, who was my best friend, developed lung cancer, and there weren't very many things she could do. And so we started playing duplicate bridge because it was one thing that she could do.
Right.
And then after she got too ill, we stopped playing, and I haven't got back to it at all.
I don't play as much as I used to.
But I remember.
But you still play bridge.
Oh, I still play bridge.
Yeah,
but I
but
don't
not
play
duplicate.
duplicate. But I
In Florida, you
remember.
can play morning, noon, and night. Every day of the week, there's so many.
Is
Yes,
that
and
right?
I remember
Oh,
he played
Theo.
and you said, Uncle Will, you did that just beautifully. I remember that evening, and I thought of that a week or two ago.
Is
now.
that
Why?
right? Isn't that strange?
No,
Well,
I remember when
Yes.
when we would play, and somehow we learned before you did.
Yeah.
And we were teaching
I
you.
think you taught me.
Sure, we were teaching
Sure,
you to
yeah,
play,
yes,
and then you were invited to some luncheon. Well, I didn't go. You didn't go, I don't think, me, but it was some luncheon, and you got there and it turned out to be a bridge party. And I can remember you coming back and saying, "Oh, it would have been just terrible." Because you were just starting to learn to play, and there were women and that sort of thing, and you had to play, and you said you didn't know what you were doing all through the whole game, and you won like second prize. No, I remember that.
I remember that was a shower.
It was a shower. It was a
Ruth
shower.
Swift, I think.
Oh, I don't know who, but you said, well, here we are. You felt so
Yay.
terrible when you got there because you didn't know everybody was playing bridge, and here you were just learning.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I still play largely by
Which way is the water? We're supposed to be on the water, you know.
Are we?
It's gay is on the water.
It's out there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I wonder if
Out
this is
there?
another one of
I
our
just
Yeah,
checked it.
I think it would be.
This is
right?
the turn to Mohawk.
Oh, we
Just
want
wrong
to,
way.
wait a minute, before we go, wait a minute. Just a minute. No, we don't want to go to Mohawk.
We in the trap house?
We want to go, we want to.
Well, there is a
Oh,
sign
my
that says
gosh.
bar.
There is a real gay bar.
A real game. That's funny.
Oh my God! How could you not have? Oh, there's a sign
Look,
over
it's an
there,
old
too.
sign.
Sure.
It's always been a gay bar.
That is
This guy never knew that he started the original gay bar.
No.
Yeah. Oh, look at that poor
Look at
guy.
that shuffle.
I don't know that he should be in the picture.
I bet he has no notion of what gay means.
Oh no! Of course not. He doesn't.
My mother would say, is that a scream?
Oh God.
We've been giggling like this, you know. I'm so
Look
glad
at the
we...
height of this chimney.
Boy,
What is that?
Why?
Must be part
It's
of
a
a
Mohawk
mining.
stamp mill? Is that what it is?
What is it?
Mohawk Stamp Mill.
Oh,
Stamp
part of
mill.
a mining company. That's where they used to. Lake London has stamp mills. That's
Yeah,
where
where they
that
would
red
break up
sand
the
came
ore.
from.
Isn't that right? They
Yeah,
stamp the ore,
Uh-huh.
break it up into small particles, and then rinse out. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, you can hardly see the
I know it.
Well, you know, it was really impressive. I don't know if that one's just covered up or not, is to see the brick ones. The other night, Bobby was showing me right behind his house.
Mm-hmm.
And you get underneath that thing and you see how tall it is. And you see the ridges that are, built
Yeah, it's
up.
got ribs.
And the bricklayers, went up there and they built scaffolding as they went up, and they were laying all these bricks. It's really incredible.
1900, 1932.
I'm also really impressed by practically everything has a sign on it. It has
Uh-huh.
a story
Uh-huh.
that goes with the place.
Tell me if it's too windy, because
Well, you know, they're trying to get this made a national park. You heard that?
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So they're opening some of the mines.
Oh, are they?
Look, and let's look at this view.
Oh.
Oh, gosh, it's a really pretty view. Look at the hills down there.
Yeah. That would be
Oh,
over
see,
at
and see all that?
Lots, wouldn't it?
Oh, all right.
Isn't
just
that
try-
where that
just
would be
try-
over there?
Yes.
Is this
Yes.
a Portage? Is this Portage Lake?
Yes.
What is this here?
No, no, no. This is the. This is
Key
the.
Winnebago?
This is Lake Superior.
This is Lake Superior.
Yeah. See it. See all the sand. That's from the stamping
That's
mill.
from the stamp
Because
mill,
they would
that's
dump.
right.
See, they would make this. They would crush it, crush the ore, get the copper out, and then dump the sand. And then what Mr. Benedict did was this process that reclaimed a lot of it.
Oh, I remember him.
Yeah. That reclaimed
Most of that
copper
they
from
dump,
some
they
of
dump
this.
it in the lake. Didn't they? Weren't they dumping it in the lake?
Yeah.
thought it was
well, that's
reddish.
what this
Look
was.
at
I'm
all
sure.
of
Well,
this.
it is.
It is reddish.
Reddish.
Uh-huh. This well
Wow,
has
look at
lost
this.
its
See that?
color.
Oh,
They say that
that's
it's
how
so
I
much
Just take a
redder.
picture of this. It's interesting.
Yeah, isn't it? It looks like a moonscape, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just snap a shot
See,
of
but
that.
Oh, and
look
look,
at
there's
that.
a big wall. Or is that a rail track?
See, well, then it would
train
ride.
track,
They would
yeah.
take the train tracks and
Yeah.
then dump it out of the train.
That's what that is.
See?
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it looks sort of like Mount St. Helens. After,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
that-
we went up there several years ago and saw the Mount St. Helens.
You're kidding me.
No, we
And you
drove.
didn't come to see me?
Gene, I hadn't heard from you. You know, I think a letter came back from you, and I thought, well,
See-
something's happened. I
See,
don't
we
know.
can't see anything now. We're down
And
the
then,
depths
and
of
then
it.
I couldn't.
I mean,
Look at all this.
Let's
I
go
Yeah.
can't
around.
go back
Yeah.
to him, but I was
Oh,
Well, I can't
Okay,
understand
flat
that.
Oh, I'm sick.
Did you
Because
used to live in Longview?
We lived in Longview.
Okay.
That's a
I
long
know.
time ago. You had my address. I used to hear from you after Longview.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, that's terrible because that's so close to.
I don't think we're going anywhere now.
Yeah. I wrote you one time. We went up to the fair, whatever that was called.
Oh,
The World's Fair?
Yeah.
Then I was still in the first house in Longview at that time. I wasn't in this house. I was in the other house
Uh-huh.
then.
Well, that was only
But-
3 years ago, wasn't it?
No.
Well, which fair? We went to Canada.
Just stick the
British
camera
Columbia?
Oh, the Canadian
Yes.
fair.
Yes.
Oh no, I thought you were talking the one in Seattle. And that Faith, I think the kids were home.
It's funny, you can see the heat coming out.
No, maybe Faith was in college then.
Uh-huh.
Heat waves.
I don't know, but oh no, the Canadian fair was just a few years ago.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So we drove up there to
Oh,
see
isn't
that.
that terrible?
Yeah.
Oh, how I would have loved that.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
I
so
would
glad.
too. Just
Well, you have to make another trip.
certainly. In fact, the last letter I think I wrote you, Jean. Oh, I wish my voice would get better.
Oh, do you want? I've got some
was-
coffee drops or something.
I was on the plane en route to Tulsa at Christmas time one year, at New Year's. And Wendell had gone skiing, and I was going down there to spend some time with a friend. And the funny part of it was that you had written me. You were on the plane on your way to Boston.
Wait.
Yeah, that's the time here.
Right.
They're honey
Right.
licorice.
No,
Oh, that's
later.
all right.
Well,
When
later.
you're going licorice.
Back further,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure, take a couple.
You'll see
All
it.
right, thanks. That's fine.
Because I always carry them because my throat
that
gets
was it.
dry.
Is it?
Yeah. Not so much when Bee's here because she, I don't talk as much then. Have to blame it on
She
something.
takes
Bee.
care of you.
She takes care of me, sure. Well, because that's when I could never get them done ahead of time. So I would do it the last
Uh-huh.
minute, and
that
when I was on an airplane, you're sitting there with nothing to do.
Right.
And I
Sherman
go to
Township
Boston
stuff.
every Christmas.
But
That's
you,
when I'd write.
You know what happened to me that time? There was a blizzard and I got snowed in at O'Hare. Unfortunately,
That was-
I went to a hotel.
Before you
near
could
there.
get away?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
So I was stuck there overnight.
It's a great place to spend Christmas Day.
Yeah. It was New Year's Eve. That's what it was. It was New Year's Eve.
Gee, I wonder if it was the year I was there. I was stuck in Chicago one New Year's Day. I spent the whole day in the red carpet room.
We were probably in the room next to me.
Right,
too.
right.
Oh, that's funny.
I was coming back from Boston, and I got
And
to
you were both,
Chicago,
this is
and
on a New Year's Day, you were both there?
Yes, I
It probably was the same time, I mean.
Well, I know, I was there on New Year's Day. I got into from Boston, but then couldn't get out.
I'd say that was 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, something like that, because I was alone. I was alone. Ken wasn't there. And I was alone, and there'd been this terrible storm, so they canceled my flight, and I just sat around, and I remember
Good.
they had all the football games on, but
look at that.
oh, it's beautiful.
Gorgeous, look at the color.
Well, what's that over there?
Wait.
I think that's where Lance is back,
Yeah.
further down back. That's, and the Huron Mountains are over there
Huron Mountains,
somewhere.
that's right. That's what it is.
I think that's what that is.
Oh,
Well,
well,
that's-
so
what
you've
else
got the
would it be?
map.
Oh, it's so pretty.
You want to check on the map?
I live on Lake Michigan. But it
Yeah,
is
and
nice.
that's-
Now, you with us the time we stood out in the street in front of my house and the northern lights met in a dome over the
Really?
and just shimmering curtains of green, and it was the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen, and I've never seen it since, although I have seen
Not like
northern
that.
lights, but not like that.
I'd like that.
It was the 4th of July, and apparently that's
Was it the 4th of
caused by
July?
sunspotting too, isn't it? So it must have been a good year for sunspots because the northern lights were fabulous.
Because we talked about that as we were driving up here, and Robin said, or B said, so how wonderful it would be if we saw the northern lights. Of course, I don't know, we've been so busy talking, who knows, and maybe they're out there.
Well,
and
it's
we're
true.
looking.
I mean, well,
to
it's
look. Yeah, you
been
have to be
cloudy
outside.
though, and maybe tonight it will be clear enough. Because it was hazy when we got here, and it's been cloudy, so,
Let's see the map.
yeah.
I gotta figure out where we were, or where we are.
Well, look along the east shore of the peninsula, and you'll find Gay, and then you'll find we're going up
There's
toward Lac
Betsy.
LaBelle.
Do you know, I've never heard of Betsy.
I haven't
I've never
either.
heard of that.
I haven't either.
Maybe they
The Mandan, I remember hearing
Mandan,
about.
yeah. That always sounds like such a ghostly place to me. And it's totally deserted.
Yeah?
And they're
Oh, is it?
Uh-huh.
Isn't it Mandan and Delaware, both of which are ghost towns, or people just
Oh, yeah,
left things?
they're absolutely empty.
Yeah. People
Okay,
just
so now where's Gay?
left everything.
Over here.
Gay is over here on the, if you go east of Lake Linden.
Oh, here's Calumet. All right, so
My father was lost at Gay one time overnight. He was hunting.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. Spent the night in the woods.
Oh
here's
my
Gay.
gosh.
Here's
Yeah,
Gay.
there it is.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Now we're
are we
driving
going
north. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Or we're driving to Betsy?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
On the road to Betsy.
We're on the
Sounds
road
like a
to
novel, doesn't it? Good title.
Bless you. And we saw the library, and I can we were all such readers.
Yeah.
It's just too bad, because the kids have television, they don't read as
Isn't
much.
it? They aren't
Yeah,
even
it was
playing
such
bridge
fun.
anymore.
No.
Young people do not play bridge.
No.
It's a
Theo,
shame.
when you were talking about bridge, reminded me that Hanley did not play bridge, would not play cards,
Uh-huh.
couldn't sit still long enough to play cards, just would get so impatient. And so I stopped playing bridge, and I played bridge
liked
all
it.
through. It's a wonder I got any grades in college at all, because we used to play
Yeah.
all night long. But I stopped playing bridge, and then when I left, took the kids and went to Portland, piled in on Jean, somehow or other made room for everybody. And actually, Jean and Ken, sent for me. Thank God they rescued me. Anyhow, one of the first things that Jean had the bridge club over, and Jean said, "Oh, we're going to play bridge. You'll sit in." And I said, "Oh boy, I'd love to. Gosh, I'm going to get to play bridge." I got the cards. I got them all put together, and then I said, "What do I do now?" I mean, I absolutely, and I've never tried to play bridge since.
Your mother did,
Did she?
although she hadn't played for years.
Did she
Once in a while
really?
She'd be visiting and
Yeah.
play bridge. Or
Really?
there'd be
And she'd
people around,
remember?
Maybe we can play bridge. She loved it.
Oh, well, I
mean,
loved
she
it, but
she hadn't played for, maybe 10 years would go by, but if there were people around, maybe we
Really?
could play some bridge.
Really?
Yeah.
I
Well,
never.
Wendell never danced. And I used to love to dance, so once I got married, I never danced again.
Well, that's because he didn't come from the cozy corner and the chatterbox.
He has no sense of rhythm. It's really funny. He just can't even, I always tell him he doesn't bounce right. He just can't get it. He really can't. Isn't that funny? He's a good athlete, but that's something you can't seem to master.
No, that's right.
And I don't even care
That's
anymore about dancing.
Well, of course, it's different. I can see where he wouldn't be that attractive, but coming up here, you know, it's...
Well, he likes to come up, I think. But actually, it's more fun for me to visit with my relatives if he is around.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I like to just toot around by myself. He gets bored with that. He has to do something all the time, like play golf or whatever. And so
Was he retired, did you say?
Oh yeah, 3 years now. He never complained about working, and he said he's never missed it once since.
Is that right?
He just enjoys himself. He really does.
Isn't that great? That he does enjoy it and enjoys it.
Yeah, some men really go to pieces when they retire. They don't have enough to do, and my brother-in-law, for one.
But if they don't have other interests.
He really admits that.
He's his Grace's husband?
Yes.
Oh, there was a picture of him. Why should we be
there?
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, in that, and he was one of the faces
Well, I'm really
that looked familiar
disappointed with
to
this
me.
room, Robin.
We've seen where it's several times in the past. He lives in Muncie.
Well, it's going to be worth it when we get to Lac La Belle.
And
Look at the crows sitting over there up on top of the tip of the tree.
Remarried and had a very serious breakdown. Was in the hospital for about a year and a half.
Oh, that's really.
And when he got out,
God, I'm going to have to look those up.
See, I didn't see those kids really after Grace left. After the
my
Petermans left.
Tom's friends. That's a war.
I did not come down here.
I have pictures. It's Lorna in a boat. We had a party. A bunch of kids.
They're nice boys, weren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
John Paul and
Just see it, it's so pretty. That's a neat place to go swimming.
Where's that?
Talking about
Lac La Belle.
Up here?
Which will be, I think it'll be unless we go far enough inland to
about
be
ready.
right.
yes.
I'm about ready. I didn't bring a towel.
It's good to have good memories.
Yeah. And the places, there were places to go, there were things to do.
I don't think we were ever bored, were we?
Oh, never.
You hear
This
kids
was
so often now say, oh, it felt boring. Even the little ones. It's so boring.
well, Theo. When I got away to school, I met all these kids who were bored.
Really?
I mean, they had done everything they thought, and they were so bored, and everything was exciting to me, you know. And we never were bored. We had just
we always had things to do.
golly,
Well, I get put out with
it's a great place to
Bates
grow up.
kids, the younger kids, because they're used to being entertained. I mean, they've got the television, and they sit there, and everything comes to them. The entertainment's to come to them. And I think that they, you know, they've grown up with this idea
I think that's
that
true.
they sit there
Yeah.
and the entertainment.
Wasn't Marshall McLuhan said that we were going to raise an awful lot of voyeurs?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Because they're content to sit and watch things instead of
right.
doing things, you know, and being involved in things themselves.
But it's not the majority at all, but there are a lot of people, I think, who are raising kids now, and they don't allow, you know, they'll watch TV for a few hours and things like that. I think you're seeing a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
Well, I have friends who are raising kids that way.
Yeah.
Then, you know, there are limited numbers of hours in front
Well,
of the boob
thank
tube.
goodness, because I think it's done a lot of damage.
Well, now they have to watch the time you spend at the computer.
Well, that's
We keep going around until we get. We
Well,
have to go
and-
to the Lac La Belle before
and
we get there.
they don't know how to entertain themselves, and I think that they can't spell because they don't read. And not the way we
I
kids
think you're
are.
right.
I mean, I'm not that great a speller, but I have to write it because I'm used to seeing the
Yeah,
written
written word. That's right.
and
Whereas the kids, I think, learn to spell, to sound things out and spell, but they're not as used to the written word. Look at all the time we spend at the library. and all
Sure,
the time
see, they
reading.
don't read that way anymore.
Although I mean, I can't complain about the older kids, and maybe given a few years, I won't complain about the younger ones.
Yeah, I think in a way, Gene, somehow or other they've developed into readers. I mean, I used to get terribly upset that the kids weren't on the other side of that. That the kids weren't reading. They're learning how to read. Oh gosh, they've got them right out on the road because there's so much woods.
See, these people aren't reading
they're
so much
headed-
anymore.
Yeah, right.
Satellite dish country. That's what it is.
Bea, do you remember a Danny Kaye record, Mommy, I Want a Drink of Water?
No,
Don't you?
no.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
How does it go?
Well, it's all little vignettes. I remember one, I'm 5, I'm a big boy now, I'm 5. Do you remember that one? And it's Mommy, I want a drink of water. I'm thirsty. Supposed to be falling asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Tough
just
cabin.
a beautiful record, and my kids loved it.
I don't remember that.
I'd like to
one.
find it for my grandchildren.
Oh.
I can't find
Well,
it.
tell Lindsay to look for it.
Yeah.
Oh, I would
Lisa
just love
might
to
know. She might.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's a real Danny Kaye
fan.
fan. Yeah, she's
Oh, I like
like
it.
seen every movie Danny Kaye
What a
like 5
fool.
times.
Wasn't he a fool? He was just wonderful.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Now, Maggie Waldron knew Danny Kaye as a cook.
Really?
Yeah. Well, he was a fabulous cook and terribly interested in food, and so he was. They were in that
A little out of you.
they were in that whole Fudo group. Danny Kaye and Cecily Brownstone and Jim Beard and that whole group of people who really, are so into food.
Oh, for
And
heaven's
Danny
sake.
Kaye, you would go to a Chinese restaurant and he would go in the kitchen and cook.
Kind of different. The vegetation, I mean, changed. Well, no, it's the same. It's
Yeah,
funny. It was sand dunes back there.
Yeah. And many of those people were professionals. Were professional cooks who made their living, with food. But he was strictly amateur. And Cecily Brownstone, who was the food editor, the Associated Press food editor, is a real character. I haven't seen her in a long time. I should really call. Anyhow, she knew Danny Kaye well, and he had trouble with his feet, so she got him into. She had trouble with her feet, and he had discovered space shoes. So he took her and bought her a pair, and had her fitted and bought space shoes for her. She used to wear them everywhere.
For Pete's sake.
Yeah.
No, but he did those were fun records and fun.
Oh.
Don't you remember how we used to play records at your house after school?
Here's my book. And those green sheets with learning all the words.
Oh, yes.
What were some of the
Your dad had
songs?
every record that was, right?
Yeah.
What were some of the songs that were the big hits?
Oh,
Gee, I don't know. There's
Mood Indigo. I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that at your house.
How does that go?
Mood Indigo?
Mood Indigo. When I
was
hear
more-
that,
Was that
Duke
Duke Ellington? Was
Yeah,
that
I
Duke
think so.
Ellington?
yeah,
It was more instrumental.
he wrote it. That's right. It was
There was yours too.
Lac LaBelle. Finally, I thought we were never going to get there. I said, actually, there were words to it.
We were singing for Robin, some of our Girl Scout songs. Some of the
Lake
songs
down
that we
here,
had
you're
never,
on this side of the lake.
we hadn't sung for.
There's a beautiful little falls here.
Ooh, look at
And we were here during a rainstorm one time, and you wouldn't
Isn't that
believe the
pretty?
water that was pouring down those
Oh, I
falls.
can imagine.
Look at that little bridge.
Just that little
Isn't that
torrent.
pretty?
Mm.
Ooh.
Quiet little.
Now, where can we get to the lake? Down. This is a
I
private.
don't think Lac LaBelle has much of
Oh,
a
there were
beach,
berries
does it?
back
Well,
there.
we used to go.
Berries? What kind? Right.
No, it looked like
Jean's getting
thimbleberries.
Here's
Oh.
another stamp. No.
Stamp milk.
Yeah.
the site.
Well, we used to come down, maybe we used to come over from the cottages. You know who had, the Locks had a place here. Lloyd and Ida Locke had a place here, and that's where we used to come when I was really little.
I haven't thought of Barbara Locke.
Oh my gosh.
Apparently, you don't want to think about her anymore.
Really?
Yeah, she's not with us anymore.
Oh,
That's what Bobby said. Bobby said she went bad.
yeah.
Came
Remember
along.
Mary Liz?
Mary Liz.
Mary Liz Messner?
Yes.
She died an alcoholic,
Oh, gee.
and her brother's an alcoholic.
Oh.
Oh.
And I always just thought they had everything in the
Yeah.
world and
Yeah.
had them all by the tail, those two.
Don't ever envy anybody.
No, isn't that true?
Oh, look how
These
pretty
guys
it
up
is
here
here.
telling fishing stories.
Oh, look at this one.
Look at this
Yeah,
lake.
They
pretty.
give us the way.
Isn't that
You see
beautiful?
our berries here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. There weren't any down at our cottage, and it must
Look
be
at
those
that.
tubers.
Oh,
look
lots
at
of
this.
berries.
Oh, my
Oh,
goodness.
Robin.
Those are hard to get. There's a little.
There's a ditch there
In the house.
in the house.
They might not like it. Come up with a
About here.
shotgun.
Now turn right.
Yeah, those aren't ripe either.
We're only 5 miles away from Delaware.
Right.
I mean, this whole place, Robin, isn't it big?
Well, Robin,
Oh,
they said
that
in
lake is just, oh, so pretty.
there's some nice
Well, I
places.
remember Floyd Log floating out in the lake
Really?
with a cigar in his mouth. Go down here and see, yeah.
Now, what was her name, his wife?
Ida.
Ida.
Ida. She had a sister who lives in Sheboygan. And has,
Really?
I think she...
Is
I
that
don't know
the
if she's
sister?
still living.
Is that the sister who lived with Sam Cahotas?
Let's see.
Sister lived with Sam.
There was
Oh, yes.
Rose Leviton, who was involved in Cahotas Company. I think she was a sister of Cahotas.
Well, I'll tell you,
Locke.
Ida's,
Well, her name, wait a minute, now what was her
Ida
name?
Locks.
Colonel, they called her husband. I thought his name was Locke. No.
No, Ida was married to Floyd Locke, and that was Barbara's mother. And her sister lived with Sam Cahotas. They weren't married,
For goodness sake,
Oh,
in
no,
that
how could they do that?
and they were good friends. And Mother used to go. They had big parties. And what was her name? The sister.
Oh, how could they do that? Well, look at this.
For
picture.
sale.
Isn't that cute?
Isn't that adorable?
For sale.
Oh, there
It
you
says
go.
for sale.
For sale. Oh
Listen
gosh, wouldn't you
to
love to?
I
Here's
wonder
another
how
one.
much they want
I think the benches are for sale. I like the benches.
Oh.
Isn't that? Oh, I think that place is adorable.
That's
Oh.
cute. That's
barn.
really cute.
We should ask Robin. Just fun.
A year older. 'Cause they were very
I think
close.
Fritz was in my class, but then,
So his kids were all younger than I.
Yeah, I don't think Laura was in my class.
but Laura must have been older because, well, that's why Marcia said that. It had to be. Because she said Fritz was in our class, and I said, well, and she was mentioning all these people, and I said, well, gee, Fritz was in a class. I knew Laura. I thought it was Laura first. She said, no.
What's that?
What? Something bit you?
It's just a fly.
Just the fly.
What's your mom?
It's on your pants. Still on me? All right, yeah, I'll get
Got
some of
it.
the stuff on my... See, they go to me. They don't like anybody else.
Funny?
That's when she said, well, that's because he said he used to go with Max and all looked up and Max. And I thought, as I say, I'm just amazed. She should remember that. And then she said that her father didn't let her go to the cozy gardens because they served beer.
My father, I wasn't allowed to go either, and I
But
said,
you
went. Yes.
That's right. Your father was very strict.
I know how strict he
Oh
was.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
A
remember.
tyrant, really. He was.
Well, it was an old world.
That's right.
You know, definitely an old world
Never
attitude.
heard of
Yeah, that's right. Sure, I remember that.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to get around. In my teen years, miserable. Not then. I survived.
Yeah?
He did what he thought was right. I don't bear any,
Yeah.
what's the difference?
After it's over, he saved out a few times.
Oh, sure.
When your mother understood, didn't she? Your mother was more
But he
yeah.
was sort of,
Yeah, he was, well,
He was,
he
well,
was
sure.
dominant.
But definitely.
And she really knuckled under just like
Sure, he was much, traditional.
Yeah.
and it was so funny because when Mother really got upset,
And they're looking
Sam,
at
you
her.
talked to her. and he said, oh, you shouldn't do that.
How does he could be?
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
And I mean, we'd laugh when she'd say that. I mean, not out loud.
Oh, I remember the time she told me to get out of her kitchen. I don't know what he was
Really?
doing. She was cooking something.
Yeah.
Get out of my kitchen. Because you used to have that maid all the time, remember? What's
Sure.
her name?
Clara.
We had Clara.
Clara?
Well, then we had Elsie after Clara. We had Elsie.
I just remember the one that always made tapioca pudding.
That's right. She made tapioca
Didn't she?
pudding.
Said,
Absolutely.
oh, no, tapioca pudding.
She, made she also made cream caramel custard, and to this day, every time I see it on the menu, I order it.
Oh, do you?
All the way through, through France, all the way through Europe, when they'd have these fabulous desserts, and I'd order caramel custard. And she makes it disgusting.
Well, I remember Mother making it. Mother taught her how to make it. Mother used to caramelize the sugar in the frying pan.
Have you ever done it?
No.
I've never done it.
You
I
kidding?
did it.
Oh, I did used to
I
make.
tried it, and I did it twice, and that's it.
No, as a
It
matter of
always
fact.
Are you talking
Really?
about flying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
it's the same thing, yeah.
Sure, it's all the same thing.
But you had to caramelize the sugar.
Yeah, first.
And
I
get
did.
it just to the point where you think it's, well, yeah, another 30 seconds
And
it's
it
gonna be
burns.
perfect.
That's
and
right.
It burned.
Yeah.
So I did it twice, and that was it. And I never did it
As a
again.
matter of fact, no, I did. I used to make custard.
Custard I
Jamie
made
made
a lot,
custard,
but
yeah.
I never made
Caramel
the caramel
custard.
because I could never get the sugar.
And I remember watching Mother do it, and as a matter of fact, I have that little frying pan. I still have that little frying pan. It's one of the pans I used to make blintzes. Two of her old pans.
Places at your house.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, but you
Cream cheese
remember
and
the
cheese.
tapioca pudding, and I never really liked it.
I know. My father used to make a lot of candy. Just sure.
That was
Just
good.
watch him make candy. That was fascinating.
Yeah, good times, good times.
This is the hill that they had to
Yes,
back up.
this is the
You
hill.
see, if
The
you look
Guild-
back, you can see the lake.
Road over here.
And that's where we used to
I
see
guess
the
that's
moon
right.
hanging right at the end of the
Yeah.
road. I'll never forget that. It was really spectacular.
You see the lake, and then you get up high enough, I think you can see the big lake. Maybe not. Maybe it was just the little lake that we used to see. So excited.
What was I telling the other day? I don't know, who was Joe on the phone? About, I think it was the dog's opener, was it Fritzy that every time you get it, it went?
I
One of the
remember that
dogs.
dog that you had.
We had
You had a
Several.
dog.
Did
we
you have
got
more
them
than one
from
dog?
Uncle Joe who raised them, red
Oh.
dogs. But I don't know whether it was, we had a miniature Doberman,
I don't remember that.
and then we had a dachshund.
I remember
And
that
one of them.
Do you remember the
used to
dachshund?
laugh, because every time you pet it, it'd just
Dribble on the
very
floor.
on the floor. And finally, we were laughing so, and then finally we said, we just told her, stay away from the dog.
I excited him fairly.
Yeah, I don't know, there's some different touch in it that really got to that dog.
I think of all the days and the fun we had. Yeah, but the only thing Daddy was allowed to do in the kitchen was mix a drink and taste the sauce for the shrimp cocktail.
Oh, he made silver fizzes, didn't he?
Yeah,
On New Year's.
and martinis. He made wonderful martinis.
Oh, well,
But he didn't have to do that in the kitchen. Oh, I did.
I like her.
Oh, I still love the taste of
I
them.
do too.
Really?
I love
I
it.
can't drink them.
But
That's an acquired taste, Gene, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
I never did.
Because you can't say they taste good. Not really.
yeah.
It's just,
Oh, I like the taste of martini.
well, I do, sure, now I do.
And I don't like them made with vodka. I mean, they have to be made with
I
gin.
like
No,
gin.
thank you.
No? Robin, you want a honey licorice?
Oh, sure.
Well, vodka, you taste nothing. I said, how can I drink
Oh, see,
and ruin my liver?
Oh,
I
no,
just
yeah.
taste it.
Have to have it coached in something. And my daughter is a straight Scotch drinker. I never liked the taste of it. I mean, stop makeup.
Wendell doesn't drink a thing anymore. He hasn't had a drink in 2 years.
Really? 'Cause I remember he used to,
Oh, that gang used to really hit the bottle down there at 10. I don't know. Wasn't a very good drink. Bonnie, do you remember Dale and Bonnie?
yeah.
No, Bonnie died in alcohol. Sure, Dale's. Oh, that awful. Just get trapped in a addicted, you know.
Also, yeah, I never. And so, I was at
Lakeshore Road with one bottle of wine. All these kids, they thought we were so risky.
Yeah.
But of course, someone like Dougie used to really.
Yeah.
But I don't think he could handle it. I don't think he probably drank more than anyone else. He couldn't drink.
Really? You don't
I
think
don't
he did?
think so. Well, I don't know. Maybe he did drink more. But Wendell could never handle it either. Ever. A very bad drinker.
Well, it's good that he kept it.
Oops. Yeah, a little late, but he did. And none of her children drink except Mary Beth and Jane.
Really?
None of the other ones drink anything. Not even coffee.
Really?
No, isn't that funny?
Yeah, what kind of kids do you have?
I don't know.
In this part of the country.
I don't know.
It's another thing, Robin. I mean, the coffee clock was on all day long.
Is that right?
I mean, there was coffee. We had to have coffee. The maids always had coffee on all day long.
Yeah, those young
I
ones
didn't
don't
drink coffee though till after I was married.
People did.
Long after I was married. Oh, people did.
I drank it. I drank it in school.
Did you?
Sure.
No, I didn't drink coffee till well
I
after
drink
I
a
was
lot of
married.
coffee.
I drank it. I mean, I did all those things
drank
you're
milk.
supposed to do.
I used to smoke like a demon. I quit 7 years ago. I had a heart attack. And I think,
really?
Sure.
You had a heart attack, Theo?
But I
Okay,
had
we're
never
gonna
had
go-
high blood pressure.
Copper Harbor, right? To Mohawk, right?
I think we go left.
Yeah, left.
Yeah. And,
Oh, no, when was this?
but it's all under control. We're fine. I feel very good. As a matter of fact.
good.
I was about 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Oh, my.
I quit smoking because I felt so bad. And about 6 months later,
This is 41. This is what we didn't do the other day.
Well,
We're up that far already.
I gave up smoking.
This
I
is your
was I finally decided that they were looking to see, I mean, because it had to be somebody they knew or they thought, you know, or they didn't recognize, and that's why they were looking. And so that I didn't feel like, you know, I am at home when somebody stares at you.
right.
This is different. But it was hard for me to
I
figure that
suppose
out.
there are just people coming back here all the time, and they want to see if they know you.
I don't know.
Yes, especially at these reunions that we get. Trude's was this year too, my brother's wife's. I think 2 weeks ago. I don't know which one I might have been on.
Well, they do about every 5 years. There's one 5 years. I'm not kidding me, because every
Yeah,
time
mine
you
is
see
too.
somebody walking with a cane, I tell her that somebody's for a reunion.
That's great. I came 5 years ago. I remember Fritzy Bryant. Do you remember him? He was the master of ceremonies, and he was just super, really good. And do you remember Martha Carnaby?
Martha?
Karna? Fritz Bryant. Was he
She-
in our class?
Yeah.
Why do I know him?
Well, he was one of the Lorium kids.
Yeah, he's one of the Lorium kids. That's right.
Yeah.
In fact, somebody else mentioned Fritz Bryant. Why did they say he married?
Is he the one that didn't get married?
Oh, he's the one who didn't get married.
Is he the one that didn't get married and was moved back here?
You know, me and Bob Stevenson moved.
Well, I don't know, because...
I think that's right.
Fritz Gump, you know.
Oh, was
Is that you?
Yeah. Well, no,
Yeah.
I just, they were talking about all these people. Marcia and Bob were talking about all these people, and I couldn't keep them straight.
Yeah, I believe it.
You know, but they said somebody didn't get married and moved back here.
Could be
And
Fritz.
then, but they mentioned Fritz Bryant, and I thought, gee, you know, that was a familiar name. But I thought, because I knew him, he must have been in my class. Oh,
My father and go to a little river. I don't know where that was. We used to go get worms, dig up worms, and then we'd go to someplace like that with a little small stream. I don't think we ever caught anything. I don't ever remember catching anything. But it looked like that.
I don't know. It was all before my time. Come on now, nobody challenge me on that.
No. It does seem funny that everything is so close. So much closer than we used to think it was.
Oh, yeah, I can't get over how close everything is. Those places were so far away.
No Narconomy.
Yeah.
It's good Amico River, Eagle
Eagle
Harbor.
Harbor. No, this wasn't too far, because we made the trip to Amico. But I know that wasn't too far. But Eagle River, Copper Harbor, I mean, those were adventures.
That's right.
I like these party stores. I've never seen liquor stores called party stores before.
They do call them that in Wisconsin, too.
Do they? I mean, good idea. Good marketing idea.
Well, you know, they sell all the fixings. Sure. Paper plates, a napkin, olives.
Olives, yeah, all the essentials.
Yeah, all the essentials.
Well, actually, there are a lot of stores that do, liquor stores in California that have all that stuff, but they just call it liquor stores. Yeah, I was really surprised when I came here. In fact, when I came here, with Mother, and we were both really pleased because Calumet looked awful in downtown. But then when we came out to Mohawk and the Amic location particularly, those places looked better kept.
I thought Lake Linden looked great.
And Lake Linden looked wonderful.
Considering they aren't very prosperous, really, I think they do a good job of keeping up appearances.
It's hard with the empty buildings, only empty stores, but, you know, the places here, it's a middle smokestack.
Now, those are old mining buildings. Back there, whatever you call it. What did they used to call those, teals?
I think you're right, Kaylee. It really looks pretty good. See all of this here? All of these are pines, huh? It all looks so, it sounded so familiar. And
This building was here, I remember, because that's where they kept the snowplows.
this building,
That building was here. That's where they kept the snowplows.
or that one. Oh, yeah. Now it's down here. Is that where that gas station is?
Yeah.
Where they had the antique, that place?
Right here.
Is Jam,
Here.
Pat.
With a baseball
This
cap.
one, right where the gas station is.
I'll have to go in there sometime.
You have to go in there because it is unbelievable.
Right here.
Here's the guy. This is the guy who owns it, pumping gas.
Yeah.
Chunky.
Is really
That
funny.
store, the place on the corner of the brick one.
Yeah, feel cold, you should be sitting on this side.
Oh, I'm fine. Oh, okay. No, I'm fine.
Well, to turn the, is the air on?
No, we can turn it on.
We had the vent open, but we can, oh. There. Oh, okay. Yeah, the sun is coming in. Yeah, which forward. There you go. See how that's back here too. Yeah, that big mine. That's a big mine. I always see there. Oh, can you feel that? Just cooler. Yeah. There's a little dollhouse for that house. This one. This one's open. Shut up! I said it's no, but it must be shut, right? That's a Ufer. It's the grand to live up here, I tell you. Oh, shut. That's true. That's true. If it isn't open and shut. There have been so many things like that. That's a riot. They're all very logical, you know. Yeah. That's a good one. It's such a big sign. Well, I want to make sure you know. Don't bother stopping, you guys.
Said a couple of times, yeah. Very literal, too, you know.
Yeah.
The guy who lived in your old house.
Yeah.
You know, that came out and said he'd been around there for 37 years, and then
No, I asked him
Mom
how long
asked
you
how
been
long
here.
you lived in the house. He said, I told you, 37 years.
I said, and you came from away. He said, yeah, from Kearsarge. Kearsarge? Oh, I think funny. That's been there forever. Yeah, that's right. That was a WPA project. Maybe that was the Peterman store, that building back there where it says market. I think that was it. They've changed the front of it. It used to have glass on the front. Is it? Oh. And they have one at Comfort Harbor. Do they? Oh, look at that's pretty busy. It's a very nice restaurant. Well, let's try Gino's. If we can't get the Gino's, we'll call the country house. If we can't get the Gino's, maybe we'll come here. Yes. That's right. I knew. It was somebody I knew, and I couldn't come up with her name. Thank you. I'm so pleased. She had a brother, Bob. Brother, didn't she? Brother, was it Bob? Or something like that. Betty or... But I don't remember him much, really. But Betty, I know. She might have fraternity brother with us. Gus Wall. I haven't heard anything of either one of them through. Okay, I'm so glad. Now I know who lived there.
There's another jam place.
Yeah, another jam place? Yeah. I think we've got enough jam. I don't know what. You need any more jam? I think we're okay now. I mean, I don't know how we're going to get all this stuff home, you see.
You get your boxes. You can put it in that chest that I'm getting. No.
Oh,
Kidding.
I might do, though. I know Izzy will probably get a box or something. Yeah.
Now, you're all going to take off from Duluth in 3 different directions, is that it?
That's right now. Yeah, we came in 3 different days, 3 different directions. Yeah. Anyway, but... That was a great story.
Well, Gene, do you you mind telling your, for the tape, your driver's license story?
Yeah, my driver's license. The driver's license story.
Oh, everybody. Oh.
No, they haven't heard that.
Well, Bee taught me to drive, when I was 14. She took me out in the car, and we started out, and, we went through the fundamentals in about a minute. And she had a date. And so we went a few blocks, and she said, "Oh, that's fine." And she and her date got in the back seat. And I took off and headed down to Lake Linden. And I thought this was great. I was 14, and here I was driving along. And it was okay, because, there aren't that many people that hit or anything. It was pretty open spaces. And we're driving along, and as a matter of fact, I got going faster and faster, and she finally came to and decided she better pay a little more attention, because I didn't know how to stop or anything. I just kept going faster, and finally we came to a hill, and she said, "Turn up." And it slowed me down enough so that I was okay, and then she either came up in front or took over and decided that was enough of a lesson. And anyway, but I was driving from that point on, and it was never any problem, because nobody bothered you then. If you were driving, you were driving. Sure. But I was really excited on my 16th birthday.
I really can't.
Who was the date? Who did you say was the
I don't know. We can't figure out quite who it was, but at 14, I would have been 17. We thought it was Brewster Curvis. That's what I guessed. It was probably Bruce.
Right.
Okay. So then, on my 16th birthday, I was all excited about going down to get my driver's license. And Daddy was at the Amish store at the time, but I don't know whether I picked him up or what the story was, but he was going to take me down to get my driver's license. And he did. And we got down there, and they were closed for lunch. So Daddy said, I was so disappointed because I was so excited about getting my driver's license. So he said, I have to get back to the store. You take me back to the Amish store, and then you go and get it. And I said, okay. And so I took it back.
Driving all this.
I'm driving. Oh, sure. But then I've been driving for 2 years. So at any rate, I took him back to the Amish store, and then I went back to get the driver's license. On my way from Amish back to Calumet to get my license, a policeman pulled me over. A state policeman.
How often did you ever see a state policeman?
Yeah.
You never.
No local policeman would have pulled me over. And the first thing he said, of course, was, "Can I see your license?" And I said, "I was just on my way down to get it."
Very innocent one,
Yeah.
right?
Well, what do you mean, innocent? And he said, "Well, could I see your permit?" I said, "What permit?" He said, "Your permit to learn how to drive."
Did you
I
have
said-
your license at this time?
Yeah.
You didn't tell her all this, Pete?
No, she never had a permit either.
I don't
So-
remember having a
No, what kind
No,
of
we
permit?
So you started to drive.
I said, I don't have a permit. He said, "You didn't have a permit to learn how to drive?" I said, "No, my sister never had one." And so he said, "Oh," and it turned out that Fred, who'd worked for my father, had backed into something in the car and had broken the tail light the day before. So he stopped me because I didn't have, because the tail light was broken, and gave me a ticket for driving without a license and a ticket for not having a tail light, And I was crushed. I was so excited about going down to get the driver's license. But at any rate, then I continued on to get my driver's license. It never occurred to me that this guy might question the fact that I was on my way, down to get it.
You were, right?
Because I was.
But no fines or anything.
Well, I did.
Okay.
I got a ticket.
Oh.
I got a ticket. My father got a ticket, and I don't know which was which.
He probably fixed them both.
But
I
at any
recall.
rate, I then continued on down to get my license. And I got down there, and I said to the fellow, who did all of that, he said, "You know the answers to all these questions, don't you?" And I said, "Sure." So he checked off all the answers on the sheet.
See, they were laid back even then.
Sure.
Yeah,
And then he said, you know what all those signs mean? I said, "Sure." He says, "Now you can see all those letters." "Oh, yeah." "Okay." So he filled the thing out.
Right. I have to take one in Florida in the fall. I hope I can pass that easily.
But I mean, it was
read
so
the book.
funny
Read
that
the
he
book.
just, it was a very, very casual sort of thing, and here it was. And the only hitch was, I did get my license, but in filling it out, he filled it out as a male instead of female. And so I drove for the first, I don't know, at least 2 years, however long those licenses lasted. No, nobody ever said anything about it. They never questioned it.
Probably
And
look at.
anyway, so I drove with this license. But you know, as I say, it never occurred to me that anything was wrong about my saying that. It also never occurred to me that there was any problem with this guy checking off all the right answers on the test for me. You know, he'd been seeing me driving for 2 years, I suppose.
My dad taught me how to drive, but I think I got my license when I was 14.
I'm not so sure, as a matter of fact, how old we were when we got our licenses. I think it maybe was 14. I started to drive when I was 12. But, I mean, because Daddy really started me driving when I was 12. And I think we got our licenses at 14.
How did you do that?
No, I think we did. I think that's when we got our licenses. At 14. I'll bet you did too.
You mean I'd started earlier?
I think so. I
thought you had to be 16 to get your...
No, I don't think so until later. I think they changed it later.
I was only 14.
I think so too. I think you're right.
Well, whenever it was.
In the middle of the road.
There wasn't
Skunk
much
in the middle of the road.
traffic.
Yeah, that's it. There was no problem. It wasn't difficult
Almost
to learn.
always used to ride into a skunk here.
Skunk,
Yeah.
Hit a while ago.
Yeah, that happens along here too. It's another one of those things that
Isn't that right?
we didn't tell you about.
Yeah.
Well, we get that on tape.
I did deer twice.
Have you?
Really? Here?
Yeah.
Really?
Ran into the back side of the car.
Oh, gee.
I tried to turn away from
Yeah.
them, you know. And, but there, I guess if you hit one head on, you've got a problem.
Yeah,
That
that's
happened
right.
to us
Oh,
in
yeah, it can be
Washington
really
once.
bad.
We were up, coming back from visiting Mother, yeah. By the way, Robin,
Yeah.
we missed it when we were up at Copper Harbor.
What?
There were bears up there.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
At the-
saw them last night.
At the dump.
And
Got
we
up on
had-
his
all
hind
about
legs and approached the car.
Oh, yeah.
so that's one thing you missed out on.
Oh, shoot.
Unless there's one around Gino's tonight. I think you're out of luck.
I don't think so.
We'll have to come back.
Yeah, you have to
Okay,
come
well,
back.
how about the whatever the song is called?
Oh, gosh.
Maybe Theo can help you guys think of some of the lyrics.
Oh, the state song? Oh, well, I don't have the
Your
thing
notes.
with me. I tried to write as many down as I could, but I don't have it with me, so I'll never remember it. We'll have to do that another time.
Oh,
You know, well, how did Wisconsin boys? How did Wisconsin? Well, how did Wisconsin boys? You don't know that song?
It doesn't know that one either. See, I remember parts of it, but I don't remember. Gene remembers much more than I do.
I think
Yeah,
it's a
I think it was a
scout-
scout song.
I think it may have been from Scout Camp or something, but I think with all those songs, we used to, you know, build campfires and sing, and, you know, we did it at Tech too, didn't we? Sure. At parties?
Yeah. But the Scouts, my father wouldn't let me join the Girl Scouts.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. Isn't that weird? That I resented. I really did.
Oh,
Well, I'll tell you, you aren't alone, because Ken joined the Scouts, and his grandfather, I think it was, hit him. He had a Scout pin on, and he hit him and pulled it off.
Really?
Because it resembled a cross. His grandfather was a rabbi. And when he saw that pin,
Oh.
he was really upset
Isn't that something?
and said,
How
nope,
strange.
you couldn't do that. So,
Too bad. Such funny ideas.
I don't know if people are so adamant about things like that anymore. Are they?
everybody's laid back about everything.
Oh, I think so.
Except the fundamentalists who get a little crazy.
Yeah, and there's still a few of them.
Isn't it
Water
pretty?
tower way up there on the road?
Do you remember how it
Oh, it's not that
feels
high.
like color?
It's a-
There is nothing here. I'm still floored by this road.
See,
Pretty.
none of you have ever been out here, huh?
No, not that we're aware of. I don't remember this. It's not that far away.
All these country roads will look alike. You could have been here and you wouldn't remember it.
Yeah, but I guess one of the things is that you didn't have to go this far to get away. I mean, there are all kinds of places to go and park or to get away from people without going this far.
Yes.
And there's so many places to get down to the beach.
Here and here.
Oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful.
Red. Oh.
I think I smell the water. I think I smell the water.
Oh, yeah.
Ah!
I think we're getting
Oh, yeah. Oh,
now it looks like fire.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, we're out in the open.
Oh.
Sort of.
Here we go.
There we go. Now
Okay,
look
this
at
is
that.
it. This is
Ah.
Robin. Not too far, Robin.
Oh.
And it's way over there.
Oh, it's all over.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, now this is really more exciting if we just sat in one place.
That's right.
and watched.
Follow this. You know, this
We have all this tent
is that tape.
Oh, that's right there.
It is. That tape. I've taped it. It's back there. Woo! You want to hear it? You want an instant replay?
Oh, God.
Robin can make it.
But that's beautiful, Robin.
It really
Oh,
is.
you did a good job. You did a good job.
It's so funny.
Oh, it's so bright.
No, I want to see Cedar Bay now.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead. We'll let you go.
It'll be pitch black in a few minutes.
We'll let you go, but isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Really, and the water takes on this
It's
color.
so bright. Look at that. It's so, and that dark cloud in the middle.
Do you think that was our road that we saw? Or was it just a cloud bank on the horizon?
Gee, I don't know. Oh, I think that was on a road. Stop sign.
Stop sign.
Well, this is an intersection.
Now you managed to see your bed. What's down there?
It beats me.
Alleyway.
Yeah, what's that?
An alleyway is back that way,
Just
but
straight ahead.
we
What's
never
that?
Forward.
that was,
I don't know.
I don't
Oh,
know.
we're going the wrong way.
No, we're going to Cedar Bay.
Well, honey,
That's where we set out to go.
I guess.
Sure, look
right.
at there are all kinds of crowds at Cedar Bay.
There's a cop sign.
Stop sign.
You have
Oh,
mailboxes
there's a
out
house
there?
there.
There's a house?
Yep, there's one there.
Oh. Oh, well,
Back
okay,
on
I
the
feel
paved
better.
road.
Now I know why the road is here. Oh, yeah. You know, we ought to come down here and tell these people about Gino's. Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Oh,
Because I'm sure that they
we're
probably-
right close to the water.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's
Cedar Bay.
beautiful. Oh, look, they're people.
Oh,
they're
stop.
people.
Oh,
People
Robert.
That's Cedar Bay. It's reflected in the water.
Yes, look at
Nice.
that.
Oh, yeah.
gee.
There's a whole community here.
That's
They're all the nice cabins.
But how? But if we can't get to the water, Robin, I mean, this
But
is
he's
maybe
getting
it.
there.
I am going.
He's
We
getting
don't know
there.
if there's an opening to the water.
We're going to the Cedar Bay Yacht Club.
Yacht Club in Marino.
It used to be private, but
Find a driveway where there's nobody home. We'll go down to that.
Oh, isn't that gorgeous?
Gee, oh, golly.
Oh, look, we're practically in the water.
it's like the 4th of July or something. It's like we're all watching fireworks.
Did you see that one? It's just beautiful. Oh, I think we may have to stop and just walk down there. Look at all these people. All these houses,
Yeah.
mailboxes.
All these
I
smart
wonder if they
people
know
live
this-
here and see the sunset every evening.
Yeah, but I wonder if they know there's a world back up there. Isn't this something?
Oh, it's going to curve down now. It curves.
We'll have to ask Bob.
Yeah,
Oh, he went to Chicago.
Road ends.
Road ends. Oh, well, where the road is.
Because look at that. They said back there were 25 people. Well, I mean, there are all kinds of people down
This
here.
is where the road
The
ends.
end of the road.
Oh, you're
It
kidding.
never
No,
does
not
go
quite.
right to the water.
Slow.
This is
Oh,
somebody's
okay.
house.
No, it just says slow. It didn't say it ended, did it?
It said the road ends. See?
There's a red flag up there.
Oh, boy, that was a big house.
Yeah.
So much for civilization.
Oh. No, I don't think we're getting close to the
I
water,
think that was a
Robin.
private road. No, isn't that odd? Cedar Bay must be the community.
Yeah,
not
that's right.
something
No,
for
I
the
mean-
public, huh?
Yeah.
I hear from Sam that we're getting closer to the water.
I don't know, Robin.
I don't know. It just stays.
Somebody else's house. Just a little bit further.
This is funny. Yeah, just a little bit further.
You need to be
I
back
think
home
we're
pretty
getting there, Rob.
Be
I
back-
think we're getting there.
Back in Wisconsin.
I see a little streak of light through another house.
Yeah.
We're going to end up in somebody's garage.
Right.
There we are.
Well, do you think we know?
Oh, sure enough. This is
Yeah,
just
look
somebody's
at that
computer.
house.
Isn't that lovely?
Ooh, that's
Beautiful.
They worked it best.
See?
There's a deal in front of us.
Look at the birch trees. You've been wanting to get a picture of these
Yeah.
birch trees for days now.
Isn't that pretty?
Now that's a stand of birch trees.
Oh,
place.
it really is. Just gorgeous.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Gee, they had to invite us in. We found our way.
that's right.
I bet you if we sit here for long enough, somebody's going to come in.
Is that a road straight to the
No, no.
No?
I don't think so.
No.
I think this is just a turnaround.
That's it.
It's a children's playground.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we saw the sunset. We
No,
saw a
yeah,
glimpse. It was that tin rising, wasn't it?
That's right. Yes, it was.
Oh,
We never actually got
God,
to it.
what a spot this is.
Beautiful. isn't
Gorgeous.
it? Cedar
Oh,
Bay.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
That is very
God, what a house.
Look at those Dutch curtains on the windows. We used to see those in Holland, right?
Yeah.
Aren't they pretty?
Nice, huh? Beautiful kitchen.
3 4-story
That's
house.
a log cabin. Look at that. Those are
It's 4 stories.
Look
Yeah.
at that. A huge fireplace. See what you
Yeah.
That's
Gorgeous.
quite a
it's
place.
big barn shit.
Lots of bicycles.
Lots of kids.
Oh,
They have
Oh, yeah, that's
there's
a
a nice swing
huge
set
place.
down there.
gee.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Well,
Ah.
that's Cedar Bay.
Okay, we saw Cedar Bay. Ah, a lot of wood. There's
Still light out
winter.
here.
Huh?
Really,
Yeah.
there is still, if we could get to a place where we could
He's not
I
coming
think
out.
you did very well.
By the
I
time
think
we
you did
get-
very well,
yeah.
Robin.
Oh,
We did get to a place. We got to a place. We saw a beautiful house.
yes, we did. That was really something. I wonder whose house that is.
We go see somebody else's house? Go.
They might not have a
Torless.
tree
No, I don't think we ought to go down.
This is Torless.
Bob and Lorraine, Bob and Tor.
I don't know.
You know them?
No.
People are
Oh,
friendly.
gee, Theo, you
They're
let us
they're
know.
probably local people from the name.
People are friendly here. Well,
Yeah, they
it's
probably
getting a
say,
little late.
gee,
Let's see.
Yeah, it might be a little too late to drop in.
I always say, would you like to come in and see our cat?
Well, we tried that. We tried that at the, with Ethan's, and those other people don't even have their name there. Everybody else says Bob and Lorraine.
Yeah, okay, that's, as I said, I should have Bob, but didn't hear him.
Yeah. See that one? But gee, this is just nice down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that house.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Gorgeous house.
Uh-huh, yeah.
They're nice and looking on the
Somebody
houses
had
like
their
that.
feet
Yeah.
okay. These are not just
And that's another one. These are huge houses. They're all huge houses.
I
You know,
can't
I don't
believe they
think we're
live
very
there. I
far from
wonder.
town. I think if we go back along this road, we'll come out and, go straight that way, and then we'll come out to the road. Probably come out near the...
These
It
are
says
really
China.
big houses
Uh-huh.
in here.
It's a beautiful spot, isn't it?
Really good.
It means that it didn't used to.
I think we're
River,
getting
or are
close.
we near-
I think we're getting. No, I think
Let's
we're
see
getting
them
close
empty.
to. I think we're not too far from Calumet.
Calumet.
Because we've been
Well,
going,
because
we've been going south.
Let's see the map.
No,
It
well,
says,
not for long. When we were at that house at the end of the road,
That was north. But
Yeah.
then, yeah. See, I
Well,
think,
because that's in sign says Alloway one way and Calumet the other way.
Alloway.
Alloway and
Well,
Calumet.
that's the way we came here, Alloway.
Yeah.
yeah. But then now there's a road that goes along here, I think, that goes.
Well, it's Saturday morning, and it's time to start taping the reunion. The noise as I walk into this hall is the noise of all the people congregating for the registration for the reunion. So I'm going to turn it off, and we'll get some more in a little bit.
Well, your dad opened? I should just start spontaneously. My dad opened it in 1938, and it was primarily an ice cream parlor, eating place, and it eventually became a hangout for the young people. And as time went on, we built a dance floor off to the side. And so Friday nights used to be Chatterbox night in town, and on Saturday it was the Cozy Garden. And then this went on until the war, and then my mother ran it while we were in the service, and then it was closed up for the last couple of years of the war, probably from 42, 43 to 45, somewhere around in there. And then when I got out of the service, then I opened it up again, and it turned out to be the same thing. A great hangout for young people, and that's where a lot of people met their husbands and wives.
And so the dancing was a record?
And the dancing was all jukebox, yeah.
And the big band?
Piped into, with all big bands, Glenn Miller, Tommy Dorsey, things of that, Artie Shaw, people that today's crowd don't even know or don't even really necessarily want to hear.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, some of them do, young ones. I should say the older ones like to hear that music. Like me, I like it. But you just find a lot of them, they just don't, they say, what? Oh, those big bands, all that brass.
But the dancing was pretty...
Well, the dancing was different. See, we danced with each other. We didn't stand 20 feet apart and say hello, and do an exhibition, because that's what it is today. I mean, a great deal of it is exhibitionism. That's as far as I'm concerned. That's what I think. I do it because I have to. But I don't know. Like the farmer once said, I like to get my best holt on him. So that's about the story of the Chatterbox.
That's great. Go ahead.
But Bee's father, Bee Glass, Marks, her dad was Sam. And Sam was the person in town, or I should say anyway, he had all the jukeboxes and the little pinball machines, which were a no-money game, just free games. And he had, I was the primary, not source, but our business was so good that Sam used to make sure that I got the newest and the Wurlitzers and the jukeboxes. When the new one came in, he replaced my old one with the new one, and he moved the older one on to some other place. So I was
the latest.
I was able to get the latest records and the latest jukeboxes. It was kind of a fun thing, and he was a nice guy to deal with. Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
That's great.
He was a good man.
One more story that I just wanted to try to get on tape. There are probably a lot more, but you told the story, Bobby, about
the goose.
The goose. The goose story. That's a good one. I think we have to...
I wonder how we could put that in there without sounding too much like Roach. You know what I mean?
Anyway.
All right. I'll start it out as best I can. One of our escapades, and there were a lot of them. After the war, one of our favorite hangouts was O'Brien's Bar. And Mr. and Mrs. O'Brien had their anniversary. What anniversary, I don't remember, and it really doesn't make much difference. Anyway, we had a nice dinner in the opposite side of the bar,
used to be the pool room, and a big long table all set up. And there were all the people that he knew, or not all of them, but I mean a great many of them. And we decided to buy a goose. So we got a goose for their anniversary present. A nice live goose. And put them in a box and wrapped them up in tissue paper. And then we presented it to Jimmy. And they poked his head through the tissue. So as the night wore on, everybody was drinking a fair amount of booze or liquor or you name it. Anyway, the goose marched up and down the table and everybody gave him a little whip and he loved it. He loved the beer. So he drank the beer and drank that, and then we had a little harness for him. So the Florian was full of bars. So we took the goose and trotted him across the street to another bar and let him loose along the bar, and he went up and down, and everybody was feeding the poor goose. So but before the night was over, everybody was pretty well liquored up, including the goose. So the next morning I came in, or it was late morning, probably before 12, I came into O'Brien's bar, and Jimmy, the owner, was behind the bar. He didn't look too well. I didn't feel too well. And I asked him, I said, Jimmy, where's the goose? He said, why don't you go in the back room there? He's in his cage and he looks about as bad as you do. So we went back there and that poor goose looked just like a hungover goose, in which he was.
That's great.
So I asked Jimmy, I said, what are you going to do with that goose? He said, hell, I haven't got the heart to kill him. He said, give him back to the farmer. So as far as we know, the goose went back to the farmer, hangover and all. So,
did he make any more trips to the bars, or no? That was it.
No,
just the one time.
No, I think we went to 2 or 3 bars with the goose. But the memorable one was the one to the Senate bar. That was a big, long bar, and it was loaded with people.
Called the Senate bar?
Senate bar, right. And that goose roamed back and forth across, and everybody, went along with the whole gag. Nobody
Lots
left.
of bars.
There were.
Way back then.
Well, there were 52 bars between the two towns, and there were 26 churches, all different denominations and stuff.
So it kind of doubled that. Well.
Yeah, well, you could go to church on Sunday. I mean, you could go out on Saturday, go to church on Sunday, and repent. So, anyway, that was about the history of this town. I mean, it's rather unique insofar as we had an awful lot of different nationalities here. We had French and Irish and English, and Swedes, Norwegians, Jewish people. Any number of Italians. A lot. And by the way, for the record, the pasties weren't invented by the Finns, as a lot of people think, because there's mostly Finns up here now. They came over with the Cornish people. It's a Cornish dish, and that's the way it's supposed to go down. I mean, my cousins even thought it was a Finnish dish, and I said, no way, it's Cornish. That and the saffron bun and the saffron bread and a few other things, The Cornish people, they were the ones that brought the saffron. And at that time, I found out later on, it was grown in the area that these people came from. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's where the lead mines were and everything else. Cornwall. And they grew the crocus, which that's where they get the saffron seed from. Now most of it comes from Spain.
Right, yeah. Which I remember, right?
Well, the reason why it comes from Spain, my understanding is that it became, with the advent of the Industrial Revolution in England, they needed the land more for industry than for farming little plots. And in Spain, there wasn't much of anything, so they grow the... Oh, Miss Latin name, man?
Yes, sure.
Well, the man teacher I had, I can remember Miss Lyons.
Miss Warren, that's the one.
See, I remember.
That's right.
You know what I remember, Pete? I went back after the war, and I went to math class along with Carl Stinson and my brother Jack, and several others. Yeah, we took more math.
She was a fantastic teacher.
Fantastic teacher, wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
We all chipped in and bought her a gift.
Well, I'll see you in an hour and a half.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care. That's why I want to go so I can get my cameras ready. Okay. We
Oh,
didn't
that's
know,
Bruce. I
know
didn't
you were
recognize
Carrie.
you.
Bruce Nordine.
I
He
know
hasn't
Bruce
changed a bit.
Nordine. I didn't recognize
Looked
you.
the same for the last 50 years.
He has.
He hasn't changed an awful lot. So anyway, sorry about the weather. I had nothing to do with it.
Well, I thought it was all your fault.
Would you believe that I took my car? You know why? You know why, B?
Because you couldn't find the umbrella?
No, I have an umbrella right in the car. But what happened is, I was coming from Lorient. You know, I had to go to the bank.
The back door?
The back door. We'll tell everybody.
Is that the back door? Which one? Back one?
Yeah. Which one? The back? Oh,
Back
okay.
of the building.
I see. Back of the
Okay.
building,
Well, I guess there's
Not
a
the
place
side
to
door.
park back there.
Yes, there is.
That's where the ROTC used to. They built all those buildings in the park.
No, the ROTC wasn't right there.
Where?
ROTC was down there where the building
Where they
went
used
down.
to, where they used to march?
Yeah.
When was the school
Oh.
built anyway? These
Probably
buildings?
did it out there.
Were these all built at the same time?
No.
This was the first building. That was recent. That was.
This is fairly
This
new.
one
This one
looks older.
1939.
No.
This is the oldest
This is
one
the
of all.
old one.
My mother went to this school,
Oh, really?
and she was 91
Uncle
when she
Nathan,
died, or 92.
Uncle Nathan and Treese went to this school. Sure they did.
Right.
And they had Katie Stewart taught them.
Katie Stewart.
No, but Miss Lyons,
This is
Fall asleep.
fall asleep in class, and she would. That's how I learned to talk so fast. Or talk so much. She would. She
Then
would
you
fall
and I
asleep.
must have both had her.
We did. No,
Because
but
we're
you know.
twins when it comes to talk.
But you know what happened? She would fall asleep, and she would sit there and she would nod. But if you stopped talking, she'd get mad and she'd say, "Right, stop," you know, or she'd ask you. She'd anyhow.
Oh,
So you keep talking, so she'd stay asleep, and she.
Anyway, the reason I have my car is because I came from the bank and I said,
Oh, I see.
okay, you know, the bank closes at 12, so I had to zoom.
Well, we were going to be here early, and then we
Yeah, I know you were.
somebody we saw Ruth and Larry Bodwine. Bodwine, is that their name?
Bodwine, yeah.
Bodwine, yeah. On the in the drugstore, and they said, oh, they were just here and nobody was here.
That was
So
at
then-
11 o'clock.
That was 11 o'clock, so we said, oh, well, gee, you know, so we take our time. We thought, well, maybe everybody wasn't going to come early, and so we got there
I
late.
was looking and I was like, I used to grow the saffron in England first before they grew it in Spain.
Really?
Read the listen, I'll give you one from the Smithsonian. It tells you all about it. You can read it on your...
I didn't.
Where did the term Cousin Jack?
Okay, you want to know that?
Yeah.
Let me tell you. You play the recording. The Cousin Jack comes from this. When the miners came over here, they came over from Cornwall, and they were what they called hard rock miners. And because they had the expertise, they fit in well with the type of mining up here, which is hard rock mining.
Right.
So, in those days, though, in order to drill a hole, instead of using automatics or regular drills that they have, that they eventually came up with, that were called automatics, they had what they called a jack and a maul. The maul was held by one man, and the guy that swung the hammer was called a jack. That's where you get the expression jackhammer.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay, really. So, when they swung this, he was the jack, and he swung this big, heavy sledge. And as he swung it, the trick was to turn it just a little bit each time. And that's the way they drilled the holes for the dynamite.
Wow.
And so we called them Cousin Jack because they spoke English, as opposed to the Yugoslavs and the Croatians and the Italians and the Finns and the Norwegians and et cetera, But that's the real scoop.
Interesting.
Called
That
the
is
Jack and the Maul.
I was sort of interested too. It seems that the Finnish people were represented very heavily, right?
Well, they are.
Why? Why?
Well, the reason, actually, they came after. In other words, the original people that came here were not Finns. They weren't predominant. They're
Right.
Irish in Hancock, and now it's predominantly Finn. Here in Calumet and Laurium, it was Cornish or English. But as time went on, these people moved out, and the Finns moved in a sense that fishing, lumbering, what have you. The
I
French
see.
were down in Lake Linda.
I see.
That was primarily a French area, and that was primarily lumbering.
They're
And,
still a minority. There
they're
was
still-
still
who?
kind of a minority
Who?
of Finns.
The
Oh, they
Finns
were. Okay.
But
They were the
anymore.
largest
really?
minority.
But they were the largest.
Yeah, they seem.
And they,
Chatterbox, everybody knows.
Of course. That was
what you're
your
able to
little
say.
hangout.
That's right.
That's my son.
Your
mother had a bike and she used to ride to school on her bike and I'll tell you, I didn't have one and I thought, oh boy.
Really tough.
Yeah, because I'd run for lunch, you'd run home.
and I heard
And
this
I lived
the things you
behind-
remember.
Yes, I lived farther than her. You know, I lived on the last street in Laurium.
They haven't
Our
shut
Girl
up
Street
yet, so
was
I
the
don't
last.
know.
She lived right up here.
See, it's quite a walk. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had to run home and
Oh,
run back,
shoot.
and the bike would have come in. They go home
Give a
for
bike?
lunch.
I had a bike.
That's right.
But did we go home for lunch?
Right down here. I don't think
I
it's there
did.
anymore.
I did.
See, I don't remember.
Most of them did.
Oh, okay.
Now, whether
That was a good hike.
Oh, it certainly was.
Yeah.
I imagine where I lived was a
Eventually, you know,
a mile.
went to the way.
Yeah, because that was about a mile from, well, maybe not a mile from our house to school.
What year were you in?
I was 42.
Oh, 42.
Told it, I guess. I don't really
You're
remember
my
the history
sister's
of it.
age.
That's
I think she
I wasn't even
graduated,
around.
but she was
I know
a
they
Sacred
leased
Heart.
it, and then they
Oh,
sold
I
it.
see.
Oh, they sold it to Bob Spur.
But this has been
You
fun.
remember Bob Spur?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Names
Uh-huh.
actually.
Yeah.